Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host of the weekly Warcry podcast, Norgoz. Welcome back to the weekly Warcry, ladies and gentlemen. Throwing up those salutes to all of you within House Gauze and otherwise. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm your host, Norgoz, and we have a great show in store for you tonight. A lot of good topics. Today we have a meaningful discussion on community-driven topics, as we always do. And of course, I have some awesome guests that I'll introduce here in just a little bit. Before I get to that, tonight's topics are as follows. We're going to be talking about controller versus mouse and keyboard. We're going to be talking about cheating in For Honor. We're going to be talking about fight clubs in relation to spectator mode. Are they going to be coming back? And we're going to be doing a little bit more of some Warriors Den recap, some opinions on the Reworks and Jormungandr about a week after, a week post patch, right? So, with that in mind, before I introduce my guests, there is a something that's very special that happened that I want to share with you guys. This was everything this all came to me today, and I don't want to distract from the podcast too much. I told my guests that I have something to share, but I'm sharing it with you all for the first time. They don't know what it is behind the curtain, and so to speak, not this curtain, but guys, I was recently contacted by Ubisoft, and they spoke with me about some things. We had some back and forth, and I was sent some things that I think that I wanted to share with you guys. They recognized some contributions that I've made to the community, and I'm extremely humbled to have this type of an opportunity. And it is to they sent me some things. Among them was this shirt made by Midiani Kai, and of course my beard is covering up most of it. I also received some other things that are behind the curtain. I'm not gonna show right now. I'll show them maybe at a later date or maybe on Twitter or something. But one of the biggest things is that a pin from that's made by English Butters, and this is specifically given. This is kind of a prestigious thing. This is specifically for people that they do recognize as contributors to the community, and I could not be more thankful for the things that I've received. I mean, there's some posters and stuff like that I've received from the development team. It's been pretty freaking awesome. It was it's a very I'm very humbled. I'm very 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 thankful that they reached out to me, and I saw something in me, and I had this planned out. Damn it! I was gonna say something really professional, and I lost it. So I don't know. That's all, guys. I just wanted to say thanks. Thank you to the Frauder development team. Thank you to the entire community, because we wouldn't be here and I wouldn't have received this type of recognition in any way, shape, or form without you guys. So that's really what I wanted to say, is that it's thanks to you guys. You guys are the real. I don't want to say the real MVPs, and I say sometimes say we're the real heroes, and that's like a call out to some pop culture stuff. But in all seriousness, this is for you guys. This is thanks to you guys, and that's why I wanted to share it with you, because this is because of us. Because what I say it all the time, we are for honor, and we truly are. You guys make this community. This is the community that we all have come to know and love, and thank you very much for that. So moving forward, I'm joined by some awesome individuals tonight. If you guys want to go ahead and unmute your microphones, um, thank you for that. And of course, I am joined today by a menu that's not supposed to be up there. Hang on a second. That's not at all what I wanted to have up there. My bad. Let's pull this back up here. There we go. Sweet. That's what we wanted to show. Sweet. There we go. There we go. Okay. So, all right. I am joined today by LeninCat, who is a competitive player. We've had him on before. Very, very well known within the competitive scene. Unfortunately, Fatal Fate could not join us this evening. He gave us ample heads up. Let us know what was going on. We hope that to see him again in the future. But of course, we appreciate him and all the times that he's been on here. So he needed the break anyway. He needed the break. MystaKyle, the toxic TND main, awesome, awesome, awesome individual. And of course, we have ThatSkullGuy, the cream of the crop. The cream of the crop, brother. Give it to me one time. Will you skull?
Oh, brother, I got that cream and I got the crop, brother. I got the cream of the crop.
all awesome personalities and awesome individuals, and thank you guys for joining us. That makes up tonight's cast of the weekly Warcry. So tonight, our first topic, and of course, as a reminder to you guys, the reason that we do this is number one, this is for you guys. This is for the community. This is because I know people within the community, they want to have they want to see these discussions. They want to hear these discussions. These are things that you guys bring up, and I bring them to the table with a cast of people that have something to add to the conversation. So this is dedicated to meaningful discussions of the community-driven topics, ultimately with the intent to bridge any community divide to bring experiences to the table that you may not have seen or had insight that you may not have otherwise experienced. So tonight, our first topic is in regards to controller versus keyboard and mouse. Now, I know that there's some people that use controller. There's plenty of people that use keyboard and mouse, and there's a lot of differences between the two in terms of like input delay and things of that nature. And that's what we're kind of getting at. The This is going to be primarily a discussion surrounding PC, so that there is no misunderstanding. We're primarily going to go in regarding a discussion surrounding PC. It's much more difficult and complicated when it comes to having a discussion comparing PC and console, which we'll probably do a little bit. But for the sake of the basis of the discussion, we're assuming that this is a PC situation, keyboard versus mouse, or keyboard and mouse versus controller situation. You can hook up a keyboard and mouse to consoles and stuff, but that's a whole different deal because consoles have a different type of a different level of input delay. So one of the inputs or one of the benefits to having a keyboard and mouse is including the one button zone on a keyboard, potentially better input delay, which we've mentioned, and you can potentially have more accurate movements and feet placements. So my first question to our guests is just: do you guys use controller or keyboard and mouse, and just generally why? And I'm going to start off with our newest guest to the show, the Skull Guy.
I primarily use controller. I am a controller convert from console, so it's always been my go-to.
Okay. Then, so you've just all. So what do you do in terms of like other games? Do you play those primarily on controller too?
For Honor on PC is the only game I play on controller, surprisingly enough. Every other
Really?
game I play keyboard and mouse.
Okay. So you're not one of those controller FPS jockeys.
Supremus? No.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. That's good to know. We can still be friends. Same question to LeninCat. You controller or keyboard and mouse? Are you all right, Skull? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. It was just really, that was a lot of audacity.
That was a lot of okay. Got it. Wow, I can't believe that you did that. Like he spit out his drink. That's terrible. Like that's a waste of alcohol, my friend. The hell's the matter with you? Like we're supposed to all come together and like support the use of alcohol in respectable ways. And that is not a respectable
That's
way,
not
sir.
it. No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
definitely not it.
I actually have to clean up my floor.
Disgusting. All right. Moving on. LeninCat, keyboard or controller?
I play controller. Specifically, I play on a DualShock 4. I used to play on an Xbox 360 controller until the bumper gave out. Then I tried an Xbox One
Which one?
controller. What? Which Xbox 360?
No, which bumper? Which bumper?
Oh, right bumper, of course.
The right bumper, not the trigger, but the bumper.
Yeah.
That's the one that always goes out on me too. It sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then I tried an Xbox One controller, and that bumper went within 3 days. So I decided to go back to DualShock 4, and that's pretty much been what I've used since. I tried keyboard and mouse a while ago, but I couldn't get over it, how sensitive it was for me. So yeah, that's what I use now.
Okay. Do you when it comes to other games, do you also primarily go on controller, or do you like keyboard and mouse it up on like Quake and FPS?
Depends on the game. FPS, I'm definitely playing keyboard and mouse. That's not even a debate. But for stuff like Souls games, for example, that I will absolutely only play on controller if I can help it. Yeah, not a ton I play controller with, to be honest. Tekken, I guess you kind of counts, but I play on a fight stick that's like in the back of my room somewhere. Yeah, that's what I usually play.
Fight stick. That's actually an interesting thing. I've considered trying For Honor on a fight stick. How do you
I
think
did that once.
Did you?
Don't do it.
Really?
Don't do it. Yeah, I mean it works. That's the funny part. You can like remap and everything,
Huh,
but
okay.
your movement's like so bad. You can't use your feet properly. It sucks.
Well, now
There's
I'm
not
kinda
enough
interested.
buttons.
Well, see, now who we need? You guys know who we need? We need gosh, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Is it Fit Ginger? Is Fit Ginger the guy? He's the one who's always like changing like all kinds of controllers, right? It's Fit Ginger, right? I think.
Mm-hmm.
So he's done it with like I think he did like a Wii controller. He did it with a Guitar Hero controller. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. And if somehow I got it wrong and it's somebody else, I'm pretty sure it's. No, wait. I don't know who it is anymore. I feel like an asshole now. I think that's him. It may be somebody else. But guys, ultimately, there's somebody in the directory that does that or did that, and it was pretty freaking crazy to see. So anyway, MystaKyle, my friend. Same question to you: controller or keyboard and mouse?
For Honor is on controller. The only two games that I play on PC on controller are For Honor and the Souls games. Everything else I play on mouse and keyboard. I just think it's easy input. There are advantages, I think, probably to having controller, or I mean to having mouse and keyboard, like the one button zone and things like that. It can probably make things a little easier, being able to bind things. But overall, I just find it too awkward. It doesn't make sense to me. Controller makes sense to me in this game, and that's usually what I do. I don't pick based on what has the best chance of being optimal or something like that. I play with controller, keyboard, and mouse based on what's just functional and feels right to me. I'm not going to play any shooter, obviously. That's not going to be mouse and keyboard, but as far as any other game like that, that's not a shooter. I just kind of leave it up to what feels most natural when I play it.
Whatever feels most natural. That sounds interesting. Forgive me. I was gonna make a really bad joke, and I decided to reel it back in really quickly before it went out of control.
How dare you?
Just got.
Can we copy strike this podcast?
Oh my gosh. Oh, let's not go there. Let's not. I know where everybody's head's at. Stop it. Don't do it. Let's leave it. Let's leave that one alone. Moving right along here.
Don't touch it.
I'm gonna pick up this train before it gets wrecked again. So what is the appeal? And I know what this same question is in everybody's minds right now. What is the appeal of playing with a controller over a keyboard and mouse, or vice versa, that really draws you in? Is it the ease of access? Is it the speed of the input, the button presses, or is it just simply muscle memory? And I want to start this off, and I'm going to let you guys know I primarily play with a controller. I have tried both of them, and as you guys know, I did some technical testing of the game before it launched. I did every alpha and every beta that I got invited to. I have done all of those, I believe, except for a small amount of those I did on keyboard and mouse. But it was limited because I'll leave that alone. So anyway, it was when the game launched, I said, if you don't go to keyboard and mouse now, you're never going to. And I made the conscious decision at that point. I said, I'm comfortable with controller. I appreciate the challenge. I will rise to it. Well, let me just go ahead and let you know that in case you didn't know, in case you hadn't watched my gameplay, I can rise to it when I'm prepared. And that's like maybe, I don't know, maybe a 50-50 of a 25% or some shit like that. Like I can parry a 400 millisecond light from neutral. I can do that. I can parry a freaking Raider stunning tap. I can do that. But can I do it consistently? Hell no. I have to be ready and waiting specifically for that attack and react on indicator. There's literally no time for movements. My reaction times are not that great to begin with. I think I'm probably maybe 280 on a good day, and that's not really all that impressive. Probably more like a 325 on, or like a 300 to maybe 325 on, regularly. But yeah, 280, it's not terrible, but it's certainly not great. But moving on, so I'm just more comfortable with controller. Just keyboard and mouse felt a little clunky to me at first. I found a way to get it right. If you've ever tried keyboard and mouse, what you actually have to do is you got to get your dead zones and everything figured out. You have to turn the sensitivity up properly on your mouse, and you got to have to turn down the sensitivities down or up. It's either one of the buttons or one of the options is to increase sensitivity or decrease sensitivity. It says one and does the other. It's kind of weird. When you go into the advanced settings for the mouse and stuff. But once you turn that up or down, whichever it is, I can't remember. Sorry. The everything smooths out. It's a lot more sensitive. It's a lot more fluid. It's a lot more. It makes more sense. And now I can parry shit very effectively on a mouse. But I'm not good with keyboard. To me, I like to have my button set a certain way, and I like to have my I think it's my guard break. Yeah, I like to have my guard break on E, and I like to have my feint on mouse, which sounds fine. But there's a few heroes that where you need to be able to push back and guard break at the same time, and you're gonna do like one of these motions right here, where it's not, and it doesn't always connect properly. So I can't use it that for that very reason, and I can use like you can say that's excuses and everything because for me it really is just my own particular shortcomings. So, for me, it's muscle memory. That's mainly why. That's why I say all that to say this is that for me, it's mainly muscle memory. Every time I've tried to go back to keyboard or go to keyboard and mouse, I always end up coming back after a couple of rounds because if I start losing, I'm like, well, I'm losing because of keyboard and mouse. I got to force myself to do this, but I also don't want to lose. It's really just I'm more comfortable in a keyboard or sorry, controller. So, coming back to you guys, with all that in mind, what's your appeal for you as to playing controller over keyboard and mouse or vice versa? What is it for you guys? I'm gonna start with Lennon on this one.
Um, so I mean, for me, it's also totally a comfort thing. I think this game, if you're using the default control layout, really promotes claw grip. If anybody knows what that means,
Yep.
it's basically you control the right stick with your thumb. It's kind of weird to think of or control your right stick with your middle finger. My bad. I think I said thumb. But you kind of have the issue then of you want to guard, especially as like reflex guard. You want to be refreshing it constantly in like two directions wherever it's relevant. But your thumb is also probably going to be the button you press GB with, which is well, fighting games it's one on PS4 it's square, Xbox it's X. Uh, so you have the issue of that, I think, which is solved by just rebinding LB, your left bumper, or L1 to guard break. That works, I think, for most people that try that. It really helps out because it cuts down on the delay between you pressing counter guard break or bashing while you're trying to guard and block stuff. So that's like my try hard's reason for playing controller and just you kind of work around it. Something I want to I said to myself I'd remember to bring up is you can macro stuff and get like one button actions on controller, but you have to use third party software for it, which
We
I
certainly
think
don't
is total.
condone.
No, I think it's totally fair game. The fact that the game on keyboard and mouse lets you rebind to have multiple actions on one button, I'm perfectly fine with that. It levels the playing field. I know a bunch of people use it's REWASD for controller remapping. It's like a premium thing, but it's like a buy once, have forever thing. I know Ravelord Servant uses DS4 Windows. That works for him. I tried to do that to get a BP flip macro, but I had trouble with it, and I'm thinking it's probably operating system based, where I would randomly lose lock on, so it was almost like it wasn't continually monitoring my inputs. So I just went back to default, no nonsense, no macros or anything like that. It doesn't make a huge difference, I don't think, but it makes life easier to have that zone parry without having to press two buttons at the same time.
Yeah.
Which I think is an issue too. Yeah, that's my main spiel with controller versus keyboard and mouse. I think they're largely equal in terms of power. It's just that keyboard has the innate support of multiple binds,
Right.
and you can customize it very easily. Controller's a little more limited in that regard.
So,
So yeah.
one thing you brought up, like when it comes to keybind, key remapping, and I'm not familiar with those programs. I want to throw that out. I'm not familiar with those programs, and I'm sure that did make it out like it'd be like a big deal or anything. But rebinding your keys and stuff is not anything that should be an issue. You can actually use Steam to rebind your controller to different buttons. And a friend, someone from our community named Denied Mars, and he that's that's why he's never been to space, because he was denied Mars, so he didn't want to go anymore. Uh, or so they say. So denied Mars is what we call him. He did a video on YouTube, and I should have had this ready to link, but I wasn't thinking about it until now. There's a one button zone video that he did, and I tried doing that. You basically use Steam software to map your stick, right? Your right stick, right here, like so, your guard stick, and you push down. It's like your R3 button, right? So you push down to do the zone. Now, here's where it gets tricky. The same thing happens with keyboard and mouse. Now, a lot of players, if you've never done a one button combo for a zone, this is really valuable information for you if this is something that you want to do or you want to try it. So, here's what you do. When you have it remapped either to one key on keyboard and mouse or to one button on your controller, you absolutely cannot do this from a light, and you absolutely cannot do this unless you're heavy fainting or from neutral. If you do the try and do this from a light, it's gonna initiate the next step in your combo, whichever button it registers first. It's if you don't hard feint a heavy and you try and do it off of a following heavy, it's gonna do the next step in your combo, whichever button it recognizes first. So if you're doing it from neutral, that's fine. But I learned that the hard way. So if you're not, if you're trying to do it from a light, right after a light, it's going to try and follow up with your combo, and it's going to screw you over every single time. You will not get the zone. You will get something else, and it could be something that might end up getting you parried and stuff like that. So just something to be aware of if you go that route. But it is something that can be done with something as simple as Steam. Steam has that functionality built in. So I did that. It wasn't really good for me, and mainly it's because of the whole hard fainting thing. But I don't think that there's a fix for that. That's going to be the way that the engine recognizes that this is two buttons being pressed at the same time. It was not designed to have one button functionality for a zone. If that's something that they add, um, and it's specifically for zone to be on one button as one input, then maybe that could potentially fix it. But as it stands now, if you use one button as a zone, you're using two buttons at the same time, which is light and heavy. So you really do have to utilize it in the way that I kind of described. I know that from experiences myself, and that's why I don't use it. I wish I could, but I end up either pushing my stick too hard and doing a zone when I don't mean to, or I try and do it in the middle of my combo and I just get myself screwed. So just a thought there from to kind of piggyback what Lennon's kind of talking about with the remapping and stuff. Kyle, what about you? What do you see the appeal versus controller or keyboard versus keyboard and mouse and whatnot?
I feel like a lot of people's thought is they want to move from controller, keyboard, and mouse maybe for a skill ceiling raise or something like that. I think maybe that's the assumption is that, with that, you can somehow get it up there. Just for me personally, that's not what's holding me back, right? From being a better player is not what I'm playing on. It's just general reaction time and things like that. And honestly, I'm all that you were describing sounds like so much work, and I'd rather just plug my controller in and just play for honor. Like this
It's
Fair enough.
it's
right. Like I don't need to like download things and read a PDF and someone can I bind this? And what if I make it on left click? And I don't care. Just I'll push them at the same time. And when it doesn't happen, I'll yell real loud about how
yep.
the game sucks and it don't work, and then it'll be fine. And it's just what happens. It's a cycle for honor. I just plug my controller in and I play, and sometimes I win and sometimes I lose. And either way, it's a good time. So I just do that.
Oh my
I
god.
don't concern myself with it. Yeah, I've tried to play keyboard and mouse just to see if I liked it better. I didn't like it better. If I had, then I'd feel the same way about that. And I would have zone on one button there because if it's something that easy as a keybind, like every other PC game, why wouldn't you do it? But since it's not as easy as a keybind on controller, I'm not going through all that extra work. I'm just not. So I'm just gonna play the way that I feel I have the most fun and I'm the most comfortable with, and I just stick with that. And I don't tend to overthink it too much.
I am so sorry, Kyle. I was not laughing at you. I
I feel you.
apologize. I cannot apologize enough to you.
How
I
dare
can
you.
tell you that for those of you that are listening to this as an actual podcast with no visuals, Kyle has this gigantic fucking fly that's been flying
Attacking
around
me,
his
dude.
room and attacking him. I mean, this guy is buzzing by. He is buzzing the
The
tower like
pterodactyl.
Maverick from fucking Top Gun
Mhm.
every fucking 3 seconds. He's just buzzing by, meow, and this son bitch
Can't
is
take him out,
huge.
man.
He is
It's
huge.
legitimately Mothra.
He has
Yeah, I
been
can't
there.
take him out.
He has been there for like the entire like this whole week. Kyle's been trying to get rid of this fucking fly, and he just can't. This is a big ass fly. I mean, that may be
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a horse fly or if you would
Yeah.
call it like a giant gorilla fly or something. It's pretty fucking big. I don't know what you would call that thing, but it's big. It's
Yes,
massive.
that one
I'm
episode.
debating on just leaving the house and giving the house to the fly at this point.
He's like that one episode of Breaking Bad.
It's become
when
that
they're in the meth
serious.
lab.
Yeah,
Oh.
this is it. Exactly what's happening. Listen, it'll be a constant battle. Y'all just ignore me swatting at this fly. I'll win. Don't worry.
Don't worry, he'll get it.
I'll get him.
The second that he gets it, it's probably going to be like he lands on the webcam, and then MystaKyle just breaks everything. All right. It'll be like Skull Guy when he gets
So
too excited.
bad.
Here's the cream. Here's the crow. Bam, the crow. Oh, fuck. I'm so sorry, y'all. Skull, I love you. What's your
I know.
appeal for controller?
Controller for me has always been more of a. It's kind of the same thing with Kyle. Is just everything is just. I've always used a controller. I grew up playing video games with a controller. Mouse and keyboard is a very new thing for me. I got a PC relatively recently, 2 years ago. Something that like I really appreciate that a lot of devs and everything take into account is especially with Xbox, they brought that new controller with people who can't really grip controllers anymore. And I'm 100% sure they actually work with For Honor now. So for me, keyboard and mouse and Xbox making that jump and everything like that into just games in general is something really cool that I just kind of wanted to bring it up. I know it's kind of off topic and everything like that, but it's something that's really cool that we don't really see a whole lot. But yeah, mouse and keyboard is definitely just more of a not mouse and keyboard. Controller is more of a nostalgia thing for me. I don't think it's the next step. It's like the evolution of being a gamer in For Honor, that you have to gradually just wean yourself off controller and move on to mouse and keyboard. I think it's more of a preference, 100%.
Did you say wiener?
Yeah, he did.
Did I say wiener?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we should.
Arrest this man.
When did
we're
I
gonna
say
be on,
wiener?
We're gonna be on Streamers Reloaded next week.
That's
Thanks, man.
great. That's fantastic.
Awesome.
Thanks, Skull. Skull, I was
Great.
trying to, I'm trying. We're trying to stay on the air. This is a family-friendly show. This is a community-friendly show. We're trying to represent.
They're gonna
the
take
community.
Norgoz's pin back.
That's
I
good.
mean, you really should have thought about that before you invited me on the show.
You
I'm gonna be
know,
100% honest.
I should. You're right. I can't be mad at you because you're right. I should have really thought this through before I invited you to the show. I am going to fire my producer. You hear that, you little
Yeah.
shit? You're getting
Yeah,
fired. Oh.
Twitch mods have now entered the chat.
yeah, man.
All right, guys. So we've got for most of us, it's seems to be kind of it's for would you we I'm sorry. It's been a long week, and I'm struggling sometimes to speak. I've got so much. I've got like a lot of things going on inside of my head that I want to get out, and I have a lot of things inside of my head that I want to keep in. And I'm struggling to do both at the same time. You guys know I can't read and look at things and talk at the same time without screwing something up, right? So for those of you joining us, I really, really appreciate it. This is a great opportunity for me to reintroduce our cast. We are joined by some awesome people. I am your host, Norgoz. I am the host of the weekly Warcry podcast every Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific, right here at twitch.tv/Norgoz, NORG0Z, NORG0Z. I am joined today by LeninCat, well-known competitive player, BP/Gladiator mate. I am joined today by MystaKyle, the toxicest of Tiandis. That's not a
That's
word, but
me.
I'm going with it anyway. We have ThatSkullGuy, who is the cream of the crop and the owner of all of the whiskey in the world right now. And I think about 90% of that has been consumed at this point. This man would drink my ass under the table. Okay, so you have the Crown Royal there. I just wanted to point out, have you tried Pendleton?
I actually have not. That's the next drink I want to try.
So Pendleton is Canadian whiskey, and Pendleton is some of the smoothest whiskey that you will ever drink. It is better than Crown, and if I remember right, I think it's actually cheaper.
You're saying
So
special words to me right now.
it's very,
Yeah.
very good. If you like smooth, that's what you go with. If you want something that's more smoky, you want to get an Irish whiskey, you go with Ketelbagans. That's your go-to. All right.
Okay.
It's fantastic. All right, guys. So coming back to the topics at hand. So we've talked about controller and keyboard versus keyboard and mouse. So kind of the benefits back and forth. We talked a little bit about how the input delay is a little bit better on. Definitely going to be better on PC than console. We haven't really gotten to that much. This is all assuming you're on a PC though. In general, the keyboard and mouse, I believe you're probably going to get better input delay than a controller, even if it's hardwired to your PC. Just with the way that everything is, functions and interacts with each other. How much that is, I couldn't say for sure. I would say it's probably 15 ms or less. But everything matters. In a game like For Honor, every single millisecond counts. In FPS, it's a little bit different. Of course, every millisecond matters in FPS, but I think in some ways, I would almost go as far as to say it might even matter more in a game like For Honor, um, because it relies a lot on your actual latency as opposed to um, like because your reactions are going to be only so much, right? Um, I guess like someone said in the chat, we've got like you could say frame data, I suppose. It's not that's a term you might mostly hear with traditional fighting games. I don't know if I would necessarily use it exactly with For Honor, but you've got the gist of it. It's a little bit different game engine than what you might expect from like a Rainbow Six Siege as an example. A little slightly different functionality, I believe. Now, I'm not exactly a game producer. I could be completely talking out of my ass. I'm probably talking out of my ass, but anyway, my point is this: is that right now, where most of us is actually comfortable with controller, and I think that's what I was leaning towards. Is that it's a comfort level thing for us? Would you all agree? It's primarily what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so we're all mostly comfortable with controller. Some of us have delved into the realm of keyboard and mouse, the dark side, if you will. And I really wish I could. I genuinely wish I could do that. I tried it earlier this week, just last night, as a matter of fact, and it was there's some of the footage that's playing on screen here is from me trying keyboard and mouse, and for the most part, I tried it. I noticed that my buttons were wrong because I couldn't input my grab on Jormungandr, and then I said, okay, I got to switch this. E is now faint, and guard break is now on my mouse, and I just could not fathom it in the back of my mind. I just could not fathom it. I kept pushing the wrong buttons. I was pushing faint to try and guard break, and I'm like, dude, my guard break's not working. What the hell? And then I realized,
Norgoz, don't forget too, man. Like, even though you're changing what you're using to play with, your MMR isn't changing. So
Right.
that didn't get any easier, right? You don't get to go fight new people who also are trying to learn the controls.
that's
You know,
true. That's true.
When you
But
started, you did that, but now you're gonna play, me or anybody else that you match up against with, and it's not a good time to be learning your controls.
that's the thing, though, is that with a mouse, though, I am so much better at parrying, at blocking. My reaction times are, I would say, at least 50 ms faster, and that's a lot. That's a half a
Yeah.
second, you know, or I'm sorry, not half a second. Excuse me. I was thinking 500. Anyway, semantics. That's a lot.
Yeah,
That
it's a lot.
that is a huge improvement. Just for moving to a mouse. It might even be more than that. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I'd say it's at least that. But I can parry shit a lot more effectively. I can block shit a lot more effectively. Um, but I think I do decently on block, well enough with controller to well enough to get by. But can I consistently block a whole bunch of really quick lights like Orochi lights as an example? Yeah, for the most part, sure. But there's gonna be times where I get overwhelmed and I can't keep up. You know, why my main thing for controller, and this is one of the things I don't like about my controller, is that I have a very small dead zone in For Honor. For those of you who don't know, you can actually change your dead zone for both your mouse or your controller joystick. Right? I have a very small dead zone. It's like I keep it between 5 and 8. That's the setting. It's extremely small. It's almost barely touch. You barely touch the joystick. It moves. But I have to push my joystick all the way to the side for me to actually feel like my guard is activated. So if I go from right to left, I'm going all the way from right to left and then back again. So that's where I lose time. And that's something that I've never been able to get out of. So that's my that's one of my downfalls. Benefits of keyboard and mouse over controller. We talked about input delays, reaction speed, and precise placement of feeds. But I think that's one of the that's one of the benefits that we haven't talked about in terms of, um, exactly with a mouse, you're probably a little bit more comfortable just kind of like tagging it back and forth, wiggling a little bit. But for me, like a joystick, it's just not. I have to go all the way. Do you guys experience that at all?
Mm.
Am I the only guy? Am I the only one who does that?
I have gigantic hands. I don't have much issue dealing with the controller. I mean, it just comes back to the same thing. Like mouse, like that 50 ms is an improvement. I agree. Like it, and it may make me better, but it doesn't change where I fall in the rank of how good is MystaKyle at For Honor. Like it just doesn't. I mean, that's not what's stopping me from moving forward. Is that so? I don't even honestly. I I think that it just has to come down to what you can do the fastest. I mean, yeah, if you can move it on mouse and keyboard the fastest, then you should change to that. That's what you can do. I spend more time in my mind going, oh yeah, what button is that to react to that? And by that point, it's already over with. I've already been guard broke. I've already been drove into a wall or whatever the case is. So I just think that I think it just changes it too much. And I think that FPS games, if you are on a controller and the other person is on a mouse and keyboard, you are already at a disadvantage. That is just the name of the game. And in this game, there may be an area where you're like, well, you're at a disadvantage because of the controller layout and this, that, and the other, but it's not that significant. I've been beat by plenty of great players with controller.
Yep.
I've been beat by plenty of great players with mouse and keyboard, and neither one of the reasons I lost were due to what they were using to play. It all
That's a
just
really
lets that
that's
set.
a really good point. I like. Well, I want to go back to a moment just for a moment what Lennon said earlier about switching from your stick to hit guard break or to hit feint. That is a huge chunk of time that you're losing in your inputs, and that has nothing to do with input delay and everything to do with human reaction times. And I have coming back to what Kyle has said, I have seen some really impressive players play with a controller and do extremely well. Baxter is a perfect example of this. He's a mod lot. He's a freaking beast. All right, he's a beast. He is a beast, and he plays on a controller. He does not play on keyboard and mouse. He plays with a controller. He gets to flex all day long. He's insane. His reaction times are off the freaking charts. And I know that he's not the only one, but he's somebody who streams consistently, and you can watch it happen, and you're just like shit. And then you look at his feats, like if he's in a 4v4 match, and you look at his feats, and you're like, his feats have directions on them. He plays controller. What? How is this man reacting like this? That's what happens when you watch Baxter. You go through those motions. And I was hoping that I could, and I know that if I really practiced and I played for honor more consistently than I do now, because even though I take a break right during Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I don't play for honor much, if at all, and it's because I play with my girlfriend. I play with Lady Goz, right? So I play other games with her. So those 3 days are my day off, my day away, and so just that small amount of time, and if you count Friday, because I do the podcast on Fridays, and I have like no time before the show to get any games in. If I have any time afterwards, I may play some games. Uh, I don't play that much. Just that little bit, I lose a lot of reaction times. I have to retrain myself. So every day, every moment that you don't play, it makes a difference. You know what I'm saying? It really does. Um, moving forward, last final thoughts. Anybody have anything that you would like to add to the conversation of controller versus keyboard and mouse? I think we really kind of covered a lot of the things we'd like to cover.
Turn your displays on gaming mode or game mode or whatever it's called.
Mhm.
That reduces the input delay. Doesn't
There you
matter
go.
what it is, monitor, TV, just make sure it's on.
There you go.
That's
That
a good point.
that's very true, and it's more prevalent for TVs.
Mhm.
I would say probably than monitors in general because they're not necessarily built for gaming. But when you turn on game mode, it just disables. Here's what game mode does, guys. I would like to consider myself, as sort of a techie. Game mode essentially disables a lot of what I would simply say extra functionality, extra um, processes that are completely unnecessary to present to you a picture. And so when you press a button on you probably sit around maybe 30 to 50 ms depending on what the TV is. That's what its delay tends to turn out to be, which is not really very good for games. You want to be probably no more. You really don't want to have more than 5 if you can help it. But on like a controller on a console, you want to try and get as close to 15 as you can. That's going to be probably as close to for the average. That's probably what you're going to be sitting at, maybe 15 to 30, but you want to get as close to 15 as you can get. There's very few monitors that are very few TVs that are out there that are actually designed for very good input delay. LG recently released it's a 4, I think it's even a 4K that was I think it's an LED or it's an OLED, and it's designed in a way that supports like 15 ms gaming, and it's insane because they don't market it that way. Um, there's a tall, as Lady Goz would say, there's a tall, skinny tech guy on YouTube that does a video about this. I'm pretty sure somebody can put two and two together. That does a video about that, and it's about this particular TV, and it's pretty interesting the way that plays out. But most monitors, you're going to get 1 to 5 ms is going to be the reaction times, or the delays on the monitor's pixels. But that's not the entire story. Your input delay is your the God, what is it? The pixel to pixel delay, which is the one usually 1 to 5 ms on most monitors that are designed as gaming monitors, mind you. Then you have your personal input delay. You've got or your personal reaction times. All these things that factor into it, and they all basically compound upon themselves. So every little bit that you can get really matters. So when Lennon says turn it on game mode, turn it on game mode. Your frame rate is not gonna. Higher frame rates have been proven to help with input delay, even if the frame rate is higher than what your monitor can. Um, is it what your monitor can handle? Um, oh, I can't remember. I always get myself mixed up on this, but higher frame rates have definitely been shown to. Um, it's your in-game frame rates. Your in-game frame rates, despite what the monitor may be able to display, has been proven to improve your input delay a little bit. Um, but you're also going to potentially introduce screen tearing with that. I don't want to get too much into this. I feel like I'm getting off topic a lot, and I apologize for that. But I think that that's a lot of information you guys can utilize. I appreciate Lennon bringing that point up. So, MystaKyle for Monster Energy 2020. That's a thing that I'm going to go ahead and throw out there right now. And cheating in For Honor. This is our next segment, guys. And this is something that I originally wanted to have Fatal on for. Unfortunately, he couldn't join us. Havoc and Fatal and several competitive and casual players have been recently beginning. And this is not just something that's just recent. Like, this is something that's been an ongoing thing since the very beginning of time, okay? It's not limited to For Honor. It's a thing that's been anywhere and everywhere. People get accused of cheating or hacking because they have inhuman reaction times, and people start thinking that they're botting or whatever. And yes, there are legitimate aim bots in FPS games and stuff like that. But in For Honor, there are often times where you have people that are at the competitive level, that are people that just are very, very quick with their reactions, and they're not cheating and they're not hacking. We have Havoc posted a video of where he was fighting somebody. He was fighting a Shigoki on his Warden, and basically he parried him 2 or 3 times, like out of a feint, and it was I think it was even a light parry. I think both times it was even light parries. I think he got a top heavy off of him. He parried 2 or 3 times in the middle of his mix-ups. It was almost 100-0 moment. It was pretty impressive. And the guy started saying something to the effect of, you're hacking, reported, you're hacking. Oh yeah, he said reported, and Havoc's like, are you serious? You're kidding, right? And dude's like, yeah, nice script, bro. What? Nice script? Are you serious? Nice script.
Havoc's a known scripter. I've been saying it for years.
Mm-hmm.
Scripting Havoc, man. That's what we call him.
That's what I call him. That's what I was calling. He's like Havoc. I'm like, who's script? Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, that's just like whenever somebody asks you, you need to get your script refilled. They're talking about get your Havoc clips in.
Yeah, I call my prescriptions Havoc. Yeah, it's a whole flip flop I do.
It's crazy, right? So we got Fatal Fate was had tweeted this out as well recently this week. And I asked him if he could provide me some more information about that so I could talk about it on his behalf. And I'll get to that here in a minute. But he's mentioned that some people were calling him cheating, hacking, lag switching, and things like that. I'm like, come on, bro, really? Fatal's just fucking good, dude. Fatal's been playing since the beginning of the time. All right, he knows what he's doing. And I'm sure that you guys have experienced this too, and that's what I want to get to. The Frauder community is filled with 200 IQ badasses, none of not a bunch of sissies. So I have a hard time of believing that these are players with more than one rep, but there's or that some of them may not be serious. Some of them may not even be serious with that. They're just doing it to be toxic because they don't want to admit that they just aren't up to the par of which that other person they're playing with. But ultimately, guys, really, it's something that I want to address. I want to get out in light and get in the light of. So, first of all, the first question is, who is the biggest cheater in For Honor, and why is it MystaKyle? And of course, oh shit, you're here. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that. I promise this
I
was
knew
not.
Great guy, man.
Okay,
Glad to be
really though, guys, please tell us a little bit about your recent experiences in the For Honor community that may be relative to this. I want to start with LeninCat because you come from the competitive community and you play at a high level of skill, and I want to see if you could take me back to some times where you've seen something like this happen either to you or someone else, and tell us what was the situation that kind of put somebody in the mindset to where they actually legitimately thought somebody was hacking.
There's a couple of things I think that feed into it. One is one very specific thing where people will call you like lag switcher, or your attacks are too fast or whatever. Is nobody knows about. Well, not nobody, but a lot of people, especially new people, won't know about the delay between chains causing your attack indicators to have less duration. So a lot of other noobs won't know that, or people of their equal skill, and they'll be buffering attacks super hard. Whatever, right? Also, I'm sorry if you can hear my dogs barking in the background now. The So that's one thing. They call you out for that or whatever if they notice it. Even it's very slight. Second is unfamiliarity with the game and inability to reconcile that other people know more than them about the game. That's one thing. And I think a third one is just kind of the lasting stigma that is kind of, plagued the game, I want to say, since Hero Series 1v1 back in the day. Back when unlocking was still very much easy to do and very popular. When you're saying MystaKyle is the biggest cheater, I'm pretty sure most people would call Alernican the biggest cheater in For Honor.
Oh, God.
Stole $10,000, whatever you want to, that's the meme. He didn't actually get $10,000. That was the prize pool.
I'm glad you say that, by the way. Not a lot of people know that.
So I think that stigma has lasted around the game, and another big thing that before I forget to mention, and I'll pass it off to somebody else, is target swapping and using like people as external targets to cause your attacks to be unparryable. So I think all these things kind of coexist and make people upset because they don't understand it themselves, or they do understand it and they just think it's bullshit or whatever. And whatever, it's your game, you're entitled to your opinion, whatever. But I'm also like, I'm totally like, I even said this to you before the podcast. I'm like, people calling me or other people a cheater is like so not memorable unless they make it funny for you. And usually they don't. They're just calling like cheating and then some racial epithet or some sort of bigoted slur, whatever they want to say. It's usually quick and dirty, and then they leave the game, and you never see them again, and you don't know who they are. Whatever. You just kind of brush it off at that point. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I get accused of cheating a ton anymore, but I imagine with the wave of Epic Game Store, free players now, I imagine that's gonna like take a significant uptick when they run into people in higher MMR and more familiarity with the game. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
I think you bring up a lot of really good points. So I wanna recap some of this because this kind of goes in line with some of the things I wanted to bring up last week with unlocked attacks as an example. I mean, if you're locked on to a different person, what Lennon's talking about to kind of paint the picture for you, and correct me if I'm mistaken on this, you're talking about you have two people, you have three people, picture them in a line, in a straight line. You're on the far end, and you're targeting the person on the other far end, and you're throwing, say, a heavy, and the person in the middle can't do anything about it, correct?
They can block it, but they can't parry it, and the attack will hit them earlier in the hitbox in some instances. So while the attack will come out and hit them sooner than the actual indicator and the attack locked onto normally would actually hit at, if that makes any sense. It's kind of like if you know what in fighting games is like hitting shallow or hitting meaty. It's basically the equivalent of hitting meaty.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's actually the situation that I was kind of alluding to a little bit with the unlocked attacks from last week. Is that's definitely a frustrating situation for sure. If you don't know what's going on, you don't know what's happening. I know it's happened to me before where I'm trying to parry something and you start to it feels like you've got it. You've nailed it down and they were targeting somebody else clearly. But you have no way you really have no way of knowing unless you can see directly at their character, know they're turned it to somebody else because if the other person's like right behind you in their direct line of sight, there's no real way of really being able to, kind of tell. So that's why, again, where would you say that that's why a lot of players in competitive tend to just block and not parry?
Yeah, I mean you can't trust that an attack is going to be 100% locked onto you, and that's why in 4v4 a lot of dynamism in the game mode is positioning. Trying to make it so that people don't have options to use your teammates or you as an unlock vector to hit somebody else. Raider is a huge character that's focused around getting into your combo zone and getting pressure off that, forcing dodges. BP is also the same. Uh, so yeah, that kind of dynamic is interesting to me, and I know a lot of other competitive players find it interesting. We wish the indicator system worked with it, but that often is not the case, which we get used to, but I do think is still bullshit to this day. Uh, I really wish they would improve upon the indicator system, and you could be able to tell when attacks aren't locked on you or whatnot. But I also don't want them to. I know a lot of people probably will be like, okay, well, just make all attacks parryable by everything. So
Mm,
unlock tech isn't a thing.
Mm.
That is going to destroy the game.
yeah,
100%. It's going to make the game unplayable at a competitive level. Nobody will want to attack ever. Uh, I've heard that argument brought up before. I think it's terrible, terrible move for the game, and it would make it really unfun to play for me at least. Maybe you think it would be fun, but not too fond of it.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think that would be really good for the game at all. And even if somebody disagrees with that, on this I'm going to be a little firm on this one because I even if somebody disagrees with that, I don't care. That's something that is in some ways it's kind of needed to keep the game in, for lack of better phrasing, I mean competitive in a sense. Like
Mhm.
if you can parry everything, if you can react to 100% of the game, and this actually falls into a much bigger, deeper discussion in terms of reactability. That's something that we could probably delve into as well. I want to get some feedback from MystaKyle and Skull on our current topic around cheating, but and reactability. That's a bigger discussion. That involves around like we talk about Raider almost every freaking week as an example, a character that people think is OP because they can't react to stunning tap. And I've gave examples almost every week of how you can deal with it in the hopes that somebody that's watching or listening at home somewhere around the world now knows how to deal with Raider stunning tap. There's like three or four different ways to deal with it. However you tend to look at it. I mean, you it's if they're opening their chain, they don't have they're not going to have uh they don't really have a lot of options there. It's either let it go, feint it, or go or soft feint it into stunning tap, and or you could also soft feint to guard break, right? But um, basically, you guard that direction, or you guard top and you dodge. That's one of the easiest ways to do it. Now, are you guard break vulnerable on that? Yes, but that's where reads come in. you're not supposed to be able to figure out everything that the opponent does. That's where you're supposed to be able to figure out and decide, okay, this player likes to do X, Y, and Z things. You react based on what they do, and what you anticipate them doing. So I agree with that 100%. Like that's something we need things like that in the game to keep it interesting, to keep it fresh. MystaKyle, I want to come to you now. I know that you are one of the most toxic individuals in the community,
Never.
and for
Never.
anybody who hears me say that, that's more of a joke than anything else. I pick at MystaKyle. There's some things that he does is toxic, but actually, this guy is actually a genuine individual. If there's anybody within the community that I have to say that I want to kind of shout out and say, I appreciate everybody, but MystaKyle specifically has made, and not to forget Lord Dim and everything that he's done for us, by the way, guys. I mean, Lord Dim is our savior, right? But MystaKyle has made friends, personal and professional, with people throughout the community, players, audience, and creators alike, from Twitch, from YouTube, on multiple platforms. I mean, he's just a decent, genuine guy, and you wouldn't believe it with the way that he gets toxic on his stream.
No,
I mean, this motherfucker is ridiculous,
I mean,
ridiculous. He is, but it's all in the interest of entertainment. So
exactly
it
right.
is what it is, man. He's a good dude. I appreciate him. And so with your experiences being a toxic Tiandi and a toxic raider, tell me. I know you've got some experiences to share with us in regards to anytime you've been called cheating or something like that. What take me back to something that you've experienced?
Oh man, I wish that's a big goal of mine. I've actually got that written down. I look at it most nights. I want to be good enough at For Honor that one day someone thinks I'm cheating.
Mm,
Um, it is absolutely not a problem that you're going to run into. Not with me at least. But here's what I do want to address on the cheating part of it. You have to look at it in different ways. Okay, there's cheating in the sense that you have some type of hack. That's not common in For Honor. We don't run into that. It's not enough of a deal that I think we need to address that. So, sure, theoretically, you could have a hack, but it's not a real problem. Not in
it's
our
kind of
game.
we need a really 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 complex hack for it to function properly in For Honor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just not worth looking at. So next on from that, you've got two other things that I think are what people consider cheating in For Honor, and that is extremely optimal play and exploits. Exploits, if it is a bug in the game, is abusing a bug in the game. I mean, you can have your own personal opinion on it. I mean, I think you're splitting hairs. It sounds like cheating to me. Like if there's a bug that says if Conquer shield bashes this wall here,
right.
you take 5 damage and you bash me to death from across the map while I can't do anything. You're cheating. Okay, it just is what it is. You're abusing an exploit, and that's what's happening. If, on the other hand, you are playing extremely optimally, and through your optimal play, it does not give me a very high chance of winning, that is not cheating. That is attempting to win. And people just don't like losing. I was talking to a competitive player earlier today, and he was saying how people hate him or people just really dislike him because of the way he plays and the things that he does. And
Optimal.
I said, that's because they don't like to lose. Of course, no one likes to lose. They play this game to want to win, and
Hmm.
it's not fun. But also, that specific person, was not using a cheat. He wasn't using an exploit. He wasn't using something that made him invincible and fly around the map. He was just doing something that was very hard to deal with. But there
Gotcha.
are ways to get around it. The onus is on you to learn how to deal with that. There are enough resources between this podcast. There are great content creators out there, like you talked about, that I met up. We're talking about Freeze. I'm not going to go through them all. There's tons of people. There's the subreddits, the competitive subreddits, the regular subreddits, things like that. Um, all of that stuff is available to you, and the onus is on you to learn how to get around that. And once you learn how to do it, then you've got that part down. And then when you run into someone who does something a different way, you have to figure out, maybe it's a certain character, maybe it's a certain gank technique, maybe it's whatever it is. Find a way to get around it and then improve. I think it's so cheap for people to just go, well, that's hard for me to deal with, so you shouldn't do it. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Okay. When I was a brand new player and I had 15 minutes in this game, Centurion was a plague to me, right? Before I realized that, he was one of the weakest characters in the game. That was terrible, and I didn't know what to do. No, I didn't ever ask that people not play him or that people not use his move set. Like because it put me because I didn't know how to deal with it. I learned how to deal with it, and I became a better player for it. And that's the same thing when you get to a high level. When you get to a high level of play, when you go from what I consider, mine and Norgoz's and different people like that's MMR, and then you're talking about moving up to one like Lenin. If you want to even remotely be competitive in a game against those type of people, then you need to learn how to counter the way that they play, which is an optimal way of playing. And it's on you to do it. They're going to do it and they're going to win. That's why they're playing the video game. And if you would like to win, then you need to do something in order to counter that. Right? It's not on them to just be like, well, you're not as good as us, so I'll just go to this point and we'll let you win by not, using our brains. Like it doesn't work that way. So I think that, if the cheating is coming from that, if you're talking about really optimal play, my advice is just find a way to get around it. It's not unbeatable. It might be difficult, but you can overcome it. I mean, it's not impossible. And I hate to see people say that playing a certain way is equivalent to cheating, because it's not. If you're not physically using an exploit like the Conqueror Shield Bash or some type of hack that we talked about, that isn't even a real problem in the community, then I just tell them to get over it. They just get wrecked, nerd. I mean, it is what it is. I don't have time to deal with them. I mean, it's not my fault that you don't want to learn. That's how skill works. You have to learn more to be able to advance.
Now, I want to take a moment, and I wanted to clarify that we all understand that some people just want to jump in, they want to play, they want to have fun, and they want to play casually, and that's cool. That's fine and dandy. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, if you just want to play casually, you don't really want to get good, you don't want to reach that level, that next level. That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that if that's really the way that you want to play. We just what I think that so far what's been said is that just pointing out that if you encounter something that you can't deal with and you are complaining about it in the sense that you're not taking an interest in actually trying to better yourself as a player, it kind of reduces your legitimacy of your complaint, I would say. It is something that, again, I understand. Like myself as an example, I use myself as a perfect example. I primarily play casually. I play, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and if I get a chance, I'll play it on Friday. Saturday, Sunday, Monday are usually reserved for offline work, or reserved for spending time with my friends and family, um, and those things. So I don't play as much during the weekends or during on those 3 days. And always on Tuesdays, and sometimes carrying over into Wednesday, I'm having to relearn and reteach myself the game. So now on Fridays, if I don't get a chance to play at all, usually on Fridays, because I do the Warcry podcast, we I do play less, right? And it is a substantially noticeable thing. It really, really is. But I think that this is an important podcast to have. I'm not trying to complain in any way, shape, or form. Don't misunderstand. I know that it can be um, uh, frustrating sometimes if you're going up against somebody that's has a play style that's optimal, because they're going to be, sometimes they will turtle because that's the optimal way to win at that point, and sometimes they will shoulder bash over and over and over again as a warden because that's the way to win at that point. And trust me, it's frustrating for me. It is. But that's the thing, is the way the character is currently designed. That's the optimal way to win. If you are a warden and you're basically point blank, you're almost guaranteed that shoulder bash because you're at point blank range. Even with some of the best reactions, if they're not anticipating it and dodging it before you get the first one off, you're in a pretty bad spot. You're almost in a vortex at that point, because if you're at point blank range, I mean, like directly on top of each other. If you're further back, then you've got more time to react to everything. But now, especially with the dodge changes and dodge roll changes and everything, it's you're that much more forced to kind of be a little more on edge with those types of actions. So again, we all understand that. We don't want to take away anything from anybody's personal playing experience. There's exceptions to every rule, and we're not trying to trash anybody. You know what I'm saying? And I try to always say that, because I know some people listen. I know a lot of people listen to this podcast or watch this podcast live or on the VOD. I know that, and I'm not trying to beat myself or pat myself on the back. I mean, I'm saying that this gets a lot of views. This gets a lot of attention. You see my clips that I post on, or see our clips that we post on Twitter and stuff like that, to highlight certain aspects of what we talk about, and it's something that I will see people that will comment on things that we talk about on the show. And I don't want anybody in the community to feel like we're trying to attack you personally, or any type of group of people. It's something that we're trying to take an objective look at everything. And that's what this podcast is all about. Bringing the community together, showing you, telling you about experiences that you may not have seen before, that you may not have heard of before, you may not have had yourself, bringing you the insight that you might not have already thought of. And just giving you things to think about when you're partaking in the gameplay, because we all know that we've all had toxic experiences. Either we've been on, I know, we've all had toxic experiences where we're the ones that are being toxic, or somebody else is being toxic to us. Hopefully, it's more the latter, and hopefully that actually changes going forward to where we reduce the toxicity overall. That's one of the hopes, and that's one of the goals of this podcast. The more that we grow as a community, the more that we grow in this podcast, the more our audience grows, the more you know that is one of our goals. So I wanted to take away from that for just a moment, and there was something else I wanted to come back to with what Kyle was saying, and I've already forgotten it now because I blabbered on so much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a moment to reintroduce our cast, and we're going to hear from Skull here in a moment on cheating in For Honor. And I use the term cheating in quotations, by the way. Um, the basis for the topic. So the basis for the topic is this. Before I forget again, the basis for the topic is this. Cheating in For Honor. People have been accused of cheating, since the game came out, because they can't react to what's happening. Been accused of lag switching, hacking, things of that nature. MystaKyle brought up a really good point that, and someone in chat asked about this, is that has there been, legitimate proof of somebody like scripting and stuff? And to my knowledge, there hasn't been. And if they have, it's probably not been very successful. Well, there actually has been an AI that was created, and there was a YouTube video about this recently. Some of you guys might have seen this. You can type in, I think it's like For Honor AI or something like that, and the guy gives like this whole like spiel of how he designed a neural net based around his play style, and like the different decisions that the neural net makes, and on how to play Warden, and that's it. It plays Warden, and that's all it plays. So that's kind of interesting. It was a really interesting watch. If I remember, I'm gonna mark this. If I remember this, I will try and mark this, and try and get you guys a link for the YouTube side of this. I came unprepared because these are not things that I was thinking about before the podcast got started. So that's something it's an interesting thing. But is it cheating? Not necessarily, because I don't think he actually took that into a competitive match. He played against a bot, so it's not something he like put in or whatever. And it's not something that is a guaranteed. Nothing was guaranteed with that. The AI was basically playing off of what that person taught it and how it played. But as far as like scripting, I don't think there has been. But cheating, what is cheating in For Honor? What is a basis for cheating? Cheating, a basis for that is going to be what MystaKyle explained. Right now, if you're a Conqueror, as an example, and you're on a harbor match, right? You're on a harbor map. You can shield bash them basically with the punch through feed, or what the hell ever it is. You can get them from, if the person's in mid and you're you're locked onto them, and you're charging against the wall, and you're split. You're outside the mid lane. You can hit them with damage, and you can do it constantly. So if you're doing that, yeah, that's cheating. That's an exploit. That's not intended. I'm sure 100% that's not intended. So that's what we mean when we're talking about like what cheating would be as a basis, and what cheating is not is what we're kind of describing. But I'm joined by LeninCat, competitive player, MystaKyle, the most toxic of Tiandis, and the cream of the crop, ThatSkullGuy. And I just smacked my microphone. I apologize for that. We've yet to hear from SkullGuy. I want to hear from you on your thoughts, and what is it, something you've gone through in terms of like something where you've been accused of cheating, or any other thoughts you might want to add to the conversation.
So with just kind of, I think people in general with For Honor get really kind of For Honor's a competitive game, and people get upset. They put their heart and soul into it in thousands of hours, and people will always come down. I try and remind myself of this. I have a saying on the channel: mad cause bad. If you are, it's 100% true. If you are calling someone out who is actually, unless they're using an exploit or leg switching, if you're calling someone out because they're playing too optimally, you are mad, and it is because you are bad. The fact of the matter is, everything in this game has a counter. You can do it. It's in the code. You can do it. Just at the end of the day, like, you really kind of have to take an introspective look at like how you play the game, and you got to want to be better at For Honor to be in the upper echelon of everything like that. And it's not just, oh, I'm going to go into a dom, I'm going to get angry, I'm going to go into 2 more doms and be toxic and then leave. Go into training, practice on Nusha. Nusha's lights are too fast for me. I can't deflect them. Chief, go into training, have a Nusha bot spam lights. You're fine. Oh, 400 MS lights, that's cheating. That's an exploit. It's not you're mad because you're bad. Just kind of get over it. And I'm not trying to be toxic, but in this game, it's really important to look at your play instead of outwards at other people's play. I've maybe come into a script once in For Honor, and that was like a year ago when I was trying to make it to GM. I was at Masters and I was trying to make it to GM. And I was like, okay, well, it's been 3 years since I played For Honor, and I've ran maybe into one script where a guy just playing really weirdly. I can't get behind the whole people have scripts in this game besides the AI thing, which is proven.
So I'm being told I'm doing a horrible job of giving you. I'm being told I'm doing a horrible job of sharing the space with you all, and that's that's apparently a thing now. You know what? Look, listen. The reason Skull Guy hasn't talked is because he's drowning in whiskey right now. Okay.
Yes.
That's why he's not here to chat. He's just here to nod and smile and look fucking pretty. Okay, that's what he's here for.
I'm here to look pretty. I'm here to be just be pretty and give you guys all those eye winks and everything like that.
And doing a darn good job of it, you know.
This personally, guys, don't get on Norgoz. This is my first time ever being in a podcast scenario ever in my life.
It's my job as the host, though, to make sure you guys get your time. It's my fault.
It is, but at the end of the day, there's times that I've
please
and everything like that.
Bro, please, bro, please, bro, please, host, please, host, please.
Can we get some? Can we get some setback, bro, please, in the chat? Please.
Can we setback, bro, please?
Bro, please. Bro,
I'm gonna get copyright strike by setback. Setback, I love you. I love you so much, setback. That was inspired by you, setback. It was not. I didn't actually know that was Setback's thing until, actually I've heard Setback say it before, but it had slipped my mind. I'm like, because I'm seeing people put that out there on Twitter and everywhere. I'm like, what the fuck? Where is this? I know I have heard this before. Why can I not think of who it is? And I just had a complete brain fart for not just a brain, like an entire brain evacuation. It's like I got a borderline, freaking, what is it? Yeah. You get the whatever lobotomy. It's like I lobotomized myself, metaphorically or something. And
I'm a huge fan of beating that joke into the ground. I use that at least every 10 minutes.
Yeah. So here's what I want to say is sort of a final thought on this: is that we say all this not to bring people down, because I tweeted this out recently. We've had a lot of drama on Twitch, and I've seen my share of it in For Honor. And amongst creators and whatnot. And I said this on Twitter just this week that, we should be bringing people up, not tearing people down just because you don't like their content, and that's something that, or I guess in some ways their character. Now there's going to be exceptions that if you're just like, if you're racist or you're just a freaking asshole, and you're being a genuine asshole, then yeah, you're probably going to get some legitimate flack for that. That's going to be an exception for sure. But, overall, I mean, it's something that we're here to build you guys up. That's what we're here for. We're not here to if you take it as we're tearing you down, think of it as a military thing. We're here to tear you down to build you back up. We're not trying to do it that way, but if you just can't get past that, and you can't get past that, really, we're here to build you up. That's the end goal. That's what it comes down to. So, please, bro, please,
please.
Just give us. We're trying to give you some tough love. We're trying to love you guys just like you love us. I mean, the community is something we all have come to know and love genuinely, and we're all passionate about it. We're all passionate in our own different ways. So one thing I want to say is, Raider's always a hot topic, And I wanted to throw this
Mm.
out there. Raider is clearly cheating 100% of the time. I mean, if you play Raider,
Yeah, if you pick Raider at the starting screen, your name actually gets changed in the game to Giant Hacker Man.
Mhm.
giant hacker like that, and then you get the big pop up from freaking Kung
From Hacker
Fury.
Man, yeah.
Exactly, the Hacker Man pop up, and he gets the full suit up of the Nintendo Power Glove. He starts
Yeah.
hacking. He starts hacking the freaking For Honor game, and then boom, right there you got 200 millisecond stunning tabs. They go into 100 millisecond stunning tabs, which go into an immediate instant KO, which is
Oh yeah.
the greatest
Well,
fucking thing I've ever seen in my life.
I blocked
hope
the
it never
stunning
gets
tab
fixed.
today, so you can pretty much say I'm competitive now. You can change my intro to brand new competitive player.
There you go.
Yeah.
And
Tree Jack's gonna build you up into one.
there you
That's
go.
it, dude. That's it. He's gonna teach me everything. He told me if I block in the direction of the stunning tab, it won't hit me. It changed everything, dude.
Oh my god, dude, really?
Yeah, you just put the guard at the top.
Oh my
It
god,
just-
you're
it
actually
doesn't-
kidding me, right? You just
doesn't
have to
hit you.
block top.
That's it. Dude.
That's
Listen,
it. You just have to
listen.
block top.
Okay,
Crazy.
here's you block top, and then you just dodge to the side to react to the side heavies. That's or you can guard, or if you really want to, you can guard the heavy and you can dodge. Either way, if you dodge with the proper timing, you will dodge both of them. You will literally be able to dodge both of them. So either way, either one you're most comfortable with, but it's probably safer to block top and then dodge.
Yeah, you can either just dodge or you can also just play Raider as well because it turns out he's on your selection screen
Yep.
too. And you can just pick him. And
This
you
is
can
the
press the
insight.
same buttons.
Or
Yeah, all the same guy. Yeah,
You know,
it's weird.
so what are some other heroes that are clearly cheating heroes? I mean, what are we talking about? Hitokiri, Shinobi.
Conquer and
Oh, you mean
duels.
heavy on read, Hitokiri?
Yeah,
Heavy on red.
absolutely. Like
Heavy
I mean,
on
like
red. You
let's-
see red, you heavy.
exactly.
That's all you gotta know.
See red, you heavy. That's what it is. If it's
I don't
red,
mind
it's
the
dead.
Hitokiri until it's external. I don't mind it until then.
That's
and
the
then
one
it-
thing.
then-
That's the
then
thing.
It becomes me being like, well, I guess I'll go get a snack while they kill me.
Yep. That's where the variable timing. See, the variable timing I thought was an awesome idea. It was very creative, but that's where you actually have a legitimate concern in some ways, because if it's external and you have like and you have like an unblock, you have it charged up into an unblockable, you were kind of, I mean, you really got it. There's some cases you just got to be lucky,
Well,
and you
and
got to
not
hope
even-
that they don't, and they hope they're not locked onto somebody else, because then you're truly fucked.
Well, and not even the read of it. What makes it the hardest part for me is this: that heavy charge that charge heavy has hyper armor on it from the very beginning. It's a very slow attack, so you're in a 2v1. There's a lot of time for coordination between that Hito charge and that heavy for the other person to get the guard break off, so that they get the guaranteed full damage on him. And there was nothing you could do in the meantime to stop it, because any attack that wasn't a bash to Hito Kiri isn't going to knock that out. And so you're just that damage is just coming to you no matter what. I mean, the variable timing, you could try to move yourself and work, but if they get you in a corner and that really big slow attack with that hyper armor, I mean, that guard break, there's just nothing you can do about it.
I want to
Stand
throw
there and die.
I want to throw something out there. This comes into like the cheating, the toxicity, and stuff like that. Lenin right now is like going through the phase in the back. Where he's like, "Why the fuck did I agree to this, Norgoz? How did you get me into this shit?" And I wanted to share something with you guys. Lynn and I have talked about this offline. You know what's coming, and it is that if you have complaints about toxicity, or you have complaints about the game or some of the mechanics of the game that have been updated or adjusted or changed, and you feel like now they're overpowered, or they're underpowered, or things are broken, or you have general complaints about stuff, we could go back. We can go back a long ways to when For Honor had just got started, right? And I'm bringing
turn this car around.
Oh, we will turn this.
Oh.
Turn this car around. That's something like that, isn't it? So, and not in a good way. Like, it would just, we will turn it around. And listen, when I was a child, okay, when my dad turned around and said, "We'll turn this fucking car around, you little bastard." It was like when that one streamer got pissed off at that kid. Just leave it alone. We know who it is. That one streamer got pissed at that kid. He's like, "What the fuck did you say to me, you little shit? What?" that moment.
They got streams on Facebook Live now, right?
Oh, something like that. Some other platform that isn't the largest, most predominant platform in the world. That being said,
Mixer was a retirement home.
oh god. Okay. So
Y'all can thank Baru for that.
Mixer jokes aside, though, really, like they have gotten some legitimacy out of some of the transitions that they've had, and they've been around for a while. There's some reasons that you might want to move, but it's not the best move for everybody. That being said, what I'm getting back to, I digress, is Lenin's list. And I came to Lenin, I said, hey, I want your list of all of the things that you would say are complaints with For Honor from way back in the day. Because whenever I hear people complain about shit, I think of certain things that were, either broken or not as put together before, right? Like getting a guard break off a parry. That's on Lenin's list, okay? And Lenin said, all right, I got this. All right, I said, Lenin's list, here we go. We got a long list of stuff. Remember when Second Wind had 4 uses? That was the thing. It's in no relation to Schindler, by the way. We had no dedicated servers. It was all peer-to-peer. Now, I know some of you duelists out there, you guys might actually prefer it peer-to-peer in duels. I understand. But still, back then, it wasn't as efficient as it was, like a couple of seasons later when they did some reworks on it. So after that, it was actually a hell of a lot better. But, had no dedicated servers. Second Wind had 4 uses. Bombs having shit tons of damage with no fall off. We've got a slew of unsafe on-block moves. Warden Zone, Glad Dash Lights, Conk Lights, Zerk Lights, Valkyrie Dash Lights. Remember when those attacks were slow? Yeah. That was fun, wasn't it? Getting a parry on that shit, then getting a guard break on every parry. Counter guard break during all blocks? That was fun. That was a thing. Which we just got rid of from Nobushi's. I know Nobushi mains are really upset about that. And somebody asked, we're not getting Nobushi yet. We're getting to that a little bit later. But yes, we're going to be talking about Nobushi. Nobushi's the hot topic right now. We're going to talk about Nobushi. We're going to talk a little bit about Yorm. And we'll maybe talk about Shinobi. Because Shinobi got nerfed to shit. I mean, Shinobi. I still get wrecked by Enmu's Shinobi, by the way. When I play Yorm, I still get wrecked by Enmu Shinobi. But I got a clip on Twitter that I put out just last night where Yorm, if he parries the ranged heavy and you get him on the ground, guess what you get? Fucking hammer slam. You get a free fucking hammer slam if you get their ass on the ground. It feels so good. It's fucking satisfying. We'll get to that, though.
What do you get when they unlock and run away?
You get fucked.
All right, got it.
You get fucked.
Just double checking.
Gotta go fast.
That's the punish I need to know, because that's what I see. And I turn and lock onto them, and then they just turn and sprint off into the distance. And I go, okay.
PK Light Parry punish being 49 damage. Oof.
Ooh.
This is a big one. Conk all blocks being able to block all guaranteed attacks.
Only season one kids will remember that one.
Yeah, critical Shigoki hug one shot. That one I didn't think was so bad. It wasn't terrible. That was kind of interesting.
Having full health and then not having anything was probably pretty bad.
Exactly.
If you got caught by that hug, you felt like it was your fault a lot of the time.
Oh,
100%. Yeah, you're like, yeah, you would have done uninstall at that
got
point.
Hit by it, you were like, well, I shouldn't have been, making a sandwich or whatever, because that's usually what had to be happening to get hit by that thing.
Gear stats. Actually, I liked gear stats. I really liked the customization of gear stats. I fucking loved them. I mean, I really, really loved them. They were confusing as shit, but if you knew what you were doing, you could make a beast of a warrior. I mean, you could do some seriously cool shit. You could make them super defensive, or you could make them super aggressive. You could do what you wanted to do with it. I loved that. I love those options.
I tell you what, man.
I like the perks, don't get me wrong.
Fun to me than fighting a Conqueror with a revenge build.
Oh my.
Yeah, that revenge build shit was kind of strong. Now I'm gonna move on from this because I don't want anybody to misunderstand. Like, we're not trying to bash on anything. I'm trying to bring things to light that people don't take into consideration when they start complaining about shit. There's so many things that on launch that we had that that have since been fixed in most cases, if not all, and it's something that the game is definitely heading in the right direction. Again, we're not throwing the devs under the bus. We're here to build this up and say, hey, we're moving in the right direction. If you're complaining about something, please recognize if it's something that's legitimate or if it's just something that you're personally upset about because whatever reason. If you think it's cheesy, if you think that you can't react to it, take the big picture step and look and say, hey, is this cheating? Is it really cheating? Is it really overpowered? Is it? Because in many cases, absolutely fucking no. In most cases, I would imagine, in many cases, I would say it's probably not quite as bad as you might think. If you, especially if you know what, I'll put it this: if you haven't been here since day one, and you tell me that, let's see, if you tell me that something is broken, I have some words with you. I'll get, you know what? I'll post all like 4,000 pages of Lenin's list. Okay, it's not 4,000 pages. I'm exaggerating. I'm just kidding.
It's only like 4,000 lines.
Just something like that. I mean, there's things that we can always go back to and say, this is something that was bad. This is something that was bad, but they were fixed, right? They were fixed.
Yeah, it's all relative. The game's definitely going in a better
It's
direction.
a completely different game, and those people that were scared away because of whatever it was before, certain things that were concerns or broken, borderline broken, not having not having a dedicated server system. Those people, trying to get those people back is going to be really, really hard, and the devs have really done a lot to really try and bring those people back. They've done a lot of things, getting these reworks in here, pushing for more of an aggressive, focused game. Periodically we'll hear, whenever there's a really big push for Honor to get people to come back, they'll always put dedicated servers in their list of things, right? So that's a big thing. A lot of people are scared away because they don't realize that there's dedicated servers. You know what I'm saying? But everything, even this year, like this whole year, there's all new stuff that they're trying to add. Every new hero from the Wulin to this year has got something unique with them that is, a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? You got Black Prior with his flip. You've got a lot of iframes with most of the Wulin heroes, which is, a little bit different. I mean, they're speedy, right? They have ways of dodging, and I think that's something that is unique to them that you just don't see with many others. I mean, aside from them, Kensei's probably got the most iframes that I can think of out of the whole cast. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's pretty close. Anyhow, my point is that, jokes aside, there are some serious issues, lag switching, things of that nature. And if those of you don't know what lag switching is, it's an issue where people involve someone using hardware or software to quickly switch their ping from low to high amounts in order to force variable timed attacks or just complete entire combos before somebody can react to them. And if you've ever had lag on your end and or on somebody else's end, and you just see like 3-4 attacks come at you within like 500 milliseconds, and you're like, what the fuck just happened? That's probably a lag spike that happened in many cases. Lag switching, I don't know specifically how people do it. I do not want to encourage it. It is very discouraged. I do condemn it. It is something that's extremely disgusting, but people have done it. I have seen whole games of people, like a whole team of people doing it, and it's extremely apparent. If you're going from 30 to 150 ms ping, about every 2 seconds, every 2 seconds we got 30. 2 seconds we got 150. Back to 30. Back to 150. Back to 30. It's pretty apparent that something's going on. Maybe you're on Wi-Fi, or maybe there's something else that's going on. And don't just read into that, because there's a lot of shit that goes on with lag. Lag is a very, very, very complicated issue. I'm going to move on. I want to get back to our guest here and then talks about our topics. So, moving forward, I think that I've talked a lot more tonight than I probably should have. I got a big mouth. This is not the Norgoz broadcast.
You use it well.
This is the Warcry. Well,
Yeah, like
whoa, hang on a second. Man. That's what she said. So the thing is fight clubs. Is spectator mode going to bring them back? Is spectator mode going to be the push that shoves us off the edge and brings back those fight clubs? I mean, are creators going to do that more frequently? That's something that I really want to get from the community. And I want to talk to you guys. I want to hear about what your thoughts are on it. Now, spectator mode is on the horizon for a limited release this month. I want to, first of all, give shout-outs to For Honor Arena and For Honor Console. For Honor Arena is the first PC tournaments on August 17th and August 18th. Go check out battlefy.com to enter those if you would like. MystaKyle himself, along with his team, is going to be participating. Lenin, you are also participating. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, you have Lenin and Kyle, and their respective teams are going to be on this Dominion-based tournament. And so that's something that is definitely something to look out for. I'm really interested to see. I can't wait to see it myself. I want to watch these. I don't remember what times they are. But then you've also got that at twitch.tv/the_arena. And that's where you're going to find it. That's where Raven's going to be casting that. You've got, or hosting it, rather. You've got For Honor Console on August 24th, 25th, for PS4 and Xbox, respectively. And there have been rumblings. Wait. Hang on a second. No. Wait, isn't Verbalocity casting one of these?
Believe so, yes.
Yes, yes. Damn it. What did I say? I think Verbalocity may be casting the PC tournament. He's been having some PC issues, and he was talking about trying to get it fixed before he has to cast the tourney. Yeah, I think he's casting those. I think maybe it's hosted on his channel. I will fix that, and we'll fix that in post for those of you on YouTube. But check out battlefy.com and check out the For Honor section. You're going to see the arena, For Honor Arena, and you'll be able to get all the details. For Honor console on the 24th and 25th of August for PS4 and Xbox, respectively. Those tournaments are coming out also with spectator mode. Those are the console tournaments. Again, that's going to be the first console tournaments with spectator mode. Shout out to Light Boogie on that as well. He's the founder of For Honor Console, and the arena, which is Raven, founder of For Honor Arena. Very, very good individuals, good creators, good players, really good players, as a matter of fact. I mean, seriously, I watched Light Boogie play on console, and the things that he does on console is fucking ridiculous. I don't know how somebody can do that. It's insane.
I'm gonna be real with you. I didn't realize Light Boogie was on for the longest time. I thought he was just on PC.
Yeah, I thought he was too for a while, and then once I started watching him, which is a while ago now, it's I was like, oh shit, you actually don't go to PC at all. Damn. And he plays freaking Glad, y'all. He'll do a 1v4, 1vx on Glad, and he will rip their freaking faces off and not die.
Toast
That's the
abs
important
for
part.
days, man.
Toast
And
abs.
then the Hito carry will charge a heavy slightly, and then it'll hit your guard even when you block.
Yep.
Reaction.
Yep. And then it
nothing
lights
you
out.
can do about it.
1
You can
p.m.
die.
Okay, so the For Honor Arena, I do have this. For Honor Arena is August 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern District Time, which I guess that should be Eastern right now. I have this posted somewhere else for Honor Console, and I don't know where the fuck I posted
I
it. 'Cause
posted the tweet with all the replies in Discord here. If you want to just copy that in,
I'll copy it in.
I'll have
It
one
has
of you guys
links
do
to all
that.
the
for me,
tournaments
please.
and everything,
Yeah,
yep.
I can't with the way I've got everything set up.
Got you.
Thanks, boys. I appreciate you very much. All right, so that should
Click
cover
on that.
right there. Click that thing, and we'll have to get that in post for YouTube. So we're gonna be talking about fight clubs, and there have been rumblings of fight clubs potentially on the rise in anticipation of spectator mode, and I myself am really interested in that. I would really like to get a hold of it and utilize that. I promised everybody in my community. I said, and by that I mean my Twitch community, and of course it includes everybody in the For Honor community. Um, Anybody, I promised that I would be bringing back fight clubs, because when spectator mode comes in, it just makes everything so much easier. You don't have to be, because you're the odd man out, right? If you want to just spectate people, you're the odd man out. You have to fight first. You got to be either getting yourself killed, or you got to go in first and not die, or you got to cast while you're fighting, and that's not really the easiest thing to do. So I want to reintroduce ourselves. I'm your host, Norgoz, of the Weekly Warcry podcast. We're joined by LeninCat, MystaKyle, and ThatSkullGuy. Awesome individuals, all three of them. And I wanted to come to you. Actually, I'm gonna come back to Skullguy first on this one, because I've been neglecting you. I'm the redheaded stepchild here, but I've been neglecting you. I'm sorry.
That's right.
So, do you see fight clubs making a comeback, and have you partaken in those, either on your channel or on somebody else's?
I actually have not partaken in fight clubs. It's something that I've always kind of wanted to jump into, but for me, it's something that I've never really found the right time to actually do on the channel. With Fight Club, I think it's just going to be one of those things that it's more resources for the community to actually use to spend more time in the game. Along the aspects of spectator mode, I'm very excited to get my hands on it and see what the nitty gritty and what we can actually do with it. Because you never know until you actually get your hands on it. They can
Right.
With the Yogg demonstration, everything like that. You don't really know how you feel about something until you get your hands on it and you're playing with it. So with my thing with spectator mode is, I just want to get my hands on it. I just want to feel it.
I know where chat's going. We're trying to stay on the air, Skull.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I don't.
Welcome back to Streamers Reloaded. Hi, YouTube.
Drama alert! Drama alert!
Thanks.
But speaking of which, all things considered, seriously, if we don't chill the hell out with some of the way that some of us have been kind of going back and forth at each other. I'm not going to give specific examples on this show, but I've seriously considered doing a For Honor drama alert because there's been some seriously crazy shit that's gone on in the last couple of weeks.
Oh God.
And
No.
I've seriously considered it, and I'm just like, I think
what you do about
that would be considered, a distraction from what we want to do with this podcast, because we want to
Agreed.
bring people together. But it is something that if we bring to light issues that are, people that are, going up against each other and try and find common ground, I think that could be a very good message to present. So that's something that I've seriously considered. And if you motherfuckers don't chill the hell out, I swear to guys, I'm going to very seriously consider do some freaking For Honor drama alert, and I'm gonna hate myself for it. So please love each other.
Mm.
Please, please love each other. And it's not as bad as it probably sounds, but it's not nearly as bad as I'm not trying to make it sound worse than it is, but there's been some people butting heads, and I'm like, come on, now, are we really fighting over this dumb shit? This is kind of silly. Um, and that's usually what most drama is somebody gets upset about something, either it being in game or outside a game or content creation or whatever it is, and somebody gets upset and they flip out, they jump the gun, just kind of like how I jumped the gun on giving Jormungandr a really terrible fucking review, which is, I mean, what my initial reaction was, right? And it has its issues, sure, but I still find it really really fun to play. So whenever I'm going to try and give you guys a very very good picture of what I think of Jormungandr tonight, because there's a lot of really good things about the character, the aesthetics, the sounds, the animations. I mean, it's very very well done in it's very aesthetically pleasing, and the punish is extremely satisfying. We'll get to that later. Sorry, got distracted. I like my hammer. Do you see fight clubs making a come back? Excuse me, LeninCat.
So I really am not super familiar with the sphere of the game. I very distinctly remember like after launch when I was still new to the game and I wasn't a competitive player at all yet. If I so I think a lot of the appeal with fight clubs, especially when streamers are involved, is just you get the you get your own like mini storyline, right? Like you come in there and 1v5 the enemy team or whatever, right? Like 1v4 rather. I mean that kind of stuff is fun. Like you get to show off or whatever. But um, I I hope it gets some sort of resurgence because I think that's like a little bit of like how people get involved with the game more and with streamers more. I think that matters way more for you guys than it does for me personally, and that's totally fine. Um, if that gives you another way to engage with your community in a small way, I'm all for it. Another thing I'm just spitballing here. I don't think you can really make it out of this with there being spectator mode for custom lobbies or whatever. Um, but I know for example, in other games, they have like team tournaments and stuff like that where it's a 1v1, but you have like a roster of teammates to play with.
Hmm.
Um, where each person has a life or two lives depending on the game, whatever the speed of the game is there. And basically you just pit them against each other, and you get to choose like who gets what matchup. You can pick characters to counter the other characters on the other team. You can put whoever you want forward first, second, third, whatever. Uh, I think that sort of thing's pretty interesting. Um, that could maybe be explored. I'm all for that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. Do I think it'll bring it back? Maybe. If people really, especially streamers, if they kind of lean into it, that'll be good for bringing it back. But they kind of have to do that because otherwise, I don't really think people will be super interested in it on their own.
So that's something that brings, and that's kind of what I was leaning towards getting to, is whether or not that's going to pick up the viewership of the For Honor directory or not. Is it going to pick up the number of content creators or not? Are we going to see more casters like Verbalocity doing streaming and stuff like that? He's kind of hinted at maybe doing something, maybe considering doing something like that. I myself has always wanted to do a tournament, and told my folks, I said, listen, once spectator mode comes out, I have a much better reason to do that. So I fully intend to, do some fight clubs. And for those of you who don't know what fight clubs is, basically it's just you're going into a custom match. typically go into deathmatch, and you have two teams. You turn off all feats. You can turn off revenge or revive, whatever you want to, and you make a circle, and you put two people in the middle, and you fight to the death, and then either somebody else jumps in the ring, or that person picks somebody else. However, the person does, however the host does it, and you keep going until there's only one person standing. Now, the downside of that is that there's always two teams. It's not a deathmatch scenario where, in the sense of like a Quake 3 arena type of deal, where you have everybody that is a free for all. If we had something like that in game that we could do in a custom match, I would really, really love that. I think that would make tournaments. That would make um, a lot of things. Even fight clubs. That would make things a lot easier to really kind of put out there and have a defining victor of all of these. To the victor go the spoils kind of deal. So I know that it does, raise questions in terms of like what Fight Club is, and that's essentially what it comes down to. For those of you who may not have experienced it before, because they're not as prevalent nowadays, they were really questionable when peer to peer was out, because no, it didn't work out very well. Once dedicated servers came out, they kind of got revitalized for a while, and I eventually saw them kind of die out a lot. I don't know anybody who does them anymore. I don't. I've not seen anybody do it. If they are, they're not somebody who has been around for a while, most likely. Because I kind of take I wouldn't want to say, I guess I could say I take pride in, I suppose, I in knowing a lot of people in the directory, and if I don't know you, come say hi. Like, I'm pretty easy to get along with. As long as you respect me, I'm gonna respect you. I usually don't fire. Fire the first shot, but if you shoot at me, you better not miss. that's that's the kind of person I am. Like, if you insult me, I'm gonna come back at you. I've got a counterpunch ready. You know. So, of course,
Norgoz, I would like to ask Lenin a question actually about fight clubs real quick,
yeah.
if you don't mind.
Shoot.
So Lenin, would you think in whole the competitive For Honor community would be interested in something where, I don't want to give it like a real life comparison, but if I'm going to, like the drag strip races 1 through 15, these are the top players. You guys meet every month, and you guys see who's the top of the top, and either there's obviously like some kind of incentive or something like that for people to come out and do it. Would the For Honor competitive community be interested in something like that? Is that something you would like the devs to do?
Me personally, I'm not very fond of 1v1 in general. So my answer for me would be no. But I know there are definitely plenty of people that, if you throw enough money at it, or B, there's plenty of 1v1 players, people who enjoy that. They'll do it. I'm sure they would if there's money involved in it. I'd personally rather see like what they're doing right now, where they focus on 4v4 and maybe 2v2. I think it's more interesting to watch in general, those two modes. But duels definitely have their niche for sure, and I think that people would like to use that as like people might enter that just to have bragging rights. Certain people would do that, I'm sure. Yeah, and I think a lot of the beef in For Honor historically, and you were touching on drama before. I think I wish I would go back to this, because it doesn't really happen anymore. But people would disagree about something, or they'd get super pissed at somebody else. They would settle in a 1v1. Whoever won was right, and whoever lost was wrong. And then they'll both come out friends at the end.
And that's
It's like it's mystical, dude. It's weird.
That's something that
I wish we'd go back to that.
Sorry. That's something that we don't see in life as much anymore either. That's a whole like different change with lifestyles and our society in general. Back in the day, I mean, I don't know about you guys. I got my ass beat when I was growing up. Okay, if I did something wrong, I got my ass beat. Okay, if I had a disagreement with my brother, put the gloves. All right, let's put the gloves on. Let's put the gloves on. If we had a disagreement in school, well, my brother told me about this. I didn't experience this much myself, but it was something that was still around for a little bit. That when they were in school, if you had a disagreement with somebody, like you were ready to have it out, the PE teacher would grab you like, all right, you're putting the gloves on. You're putting the gloves on. You're gonna get in here. You're gonna hash it out. However you gotta hash it out. And once you're done, you're gonna fucking shake hands. You're gonna move the fuck on. And that's something we don't see anymore. And I like that idea. Like, you 1v1 and you have it out. I have that same mentality sometimes when somebody like talks trash to me. That's my immediate thought. You want a 1v1? Like, do you wanna go, bro? Because ultimately, I'm not the best player in the world. I'm not. But I'll give you a challenge and I'll gain your respect in the process. I guarantee it. But that being said, I remember that one time I went to a competitive tournament and got my ass beat by Bubbly Tears with Lawbringer before it was reworked, and it was disgusting. So that being said, if you're competitive, you can just forget I said anything, and I'll just go back and stay in my lane. 1-1 in Rust. All right, so moving on. Do you see Fight Club's making a comeback, Mr. Kyle?
Well, I don't want to keep repeating what everyone else has said. Yes, I think that it very well can make a comeback. I think it's on the content creators to do that, push them to get them moving. I want to say this though. I wanted to answer that question first, and I want to answer it directly. But then I also want to say this: our community has a tendency from time to time to get some really insane expectations. Okay. And I'm not saying that that having expectations are a bad thing, but sometimes they get a little out of control. And I've started to notice ever since spectator mode has been announced, the community's putting a lot on this, right? Suddenly spectator mode is going to bring back the competitive scene. It's going to make people enjoy that again. It's going to suddenly create this. It's going to suddenly create that. I'm not saying that it won't contribute, but let's all realize that at the end of the day, that's going to settle in things like the arena, content creators who are doing tournaments like you said that you're going to organize, right? That's what that's going to be useful for. There's other small scenarios, but I think spectator mode is an outstanding addition to the game. I think it's going to make some improvements, but I also think that sometimes we as a community can get a little too worked up about this is going to change it all, and it doesn't, right? It doesn't make that way. I mean, if you don't like people running around obstacles on a point in order to stall for their teammate to come over and help, then you won't like it when you look at it in spectator mode either. You know what I mean? That's what it is. Like, if you're mad about that, you're gonna be mad when it's being cast by Verbalocity and it's in spectator mode. Okay, that's not going to change no matter what. So it's going to give the competitive scene a better chance of being produced. It's going to give content creators more tools. It's going to allow YouTubers cooler edits. It's going to allow you to look it on your friends and maybe do something that's a little different and cool. But all I want to say is I don't want to put a lot of onus on spectator mode. I think it's a really cool thing, and I think we should be really appreciative that the devs listen to the community and that they put it in there and that we get to use it.
Yes.
But we should also realize that it doesn't save anything. It's just another tool. If you don't like competitive For Honor play now, I guarantee. Well, I shouldn't say. I'll ask Lenin, but I think this is a pretty confident answer. I don't think that when spectator mode comes out, Lenin and Treejack and Scorebrand and everyone are going to start playing differently because you can watch them in spectator mode now, right? It's still going to be the same style of play. Everything's still going to be done the same way until there are fundamental changes to the game that cause them to play differently. They're not going to. So if you don't enjoy competitive For Honor at a high level, how it's done now, you're not going to enjoy it when you have spectator mode. You're not. Now, you can talk about the idea that if you guys remember one of the really big tournaments that happened not too terribly long ago, they got streamed on Twitch when Salty Dreams did a casual only tournament.
Yep.
Didn't allow any high level competitive players to come in there. It can make people mad about it, but if it opens up the door for that, then sure, it opens up the door for that and allows you to view that. But if you want to watch the For Honor tournaments for 1.5 million steel, the For Honor tournaments for money, the ones that are posted all over the place, if you want to watch that style of play is still going to be the same with or without spectator mode. So I do think it's going to improve some stuff. I just don't want us to all really get worked up about how it's going to change the landscape of how the competitive community and the casual or less skilled community
full population
interacts. Yeah, I just don't think it's going to change how it interacts as much as sometimes we like to build it up to be that way.
I think
Yeah,
Mr. Kyle brings up a lot of really good points here in terms of like what it comes down to. It really comes down to presentation and how we, the community, present that and utilize the spectator mode. Lennon?
Yeah, just to add one more thing onto that, and I think we can, whatever you want to say after that, we can move on. When it comes to spectator mode, like Kyle's saying, I don't think it's going to be like the magic fix that the game needed. It's not like it's not like it's not like the Wizard of Oz, right? Like you don't go to the wizard's castle and whatever, and everything's good again. But I do think personally that what For Honor competitive was always kind of needed. I don't think it'll, knock on wood. I don't, I would like for it to be big. I would like for it to scale up into sponsorships and multiple thousand viewer streams or whatever once a month or whatever, right? But the thing that For Honor competitive needs right now is new people, and I think giving what they're doing right now, they want that too.
Mm-hmm.
Giving steel prizes and giving it like a pool rather than first place wins everything or whatever. I think that's going to give people, I don't want to say morphine or endorphin rush or whatever, but they'll be more incentivized and more interested in it, and maybe it gets a few feet in the door, so to speak. And I'd like that. It's just like Kyle's saying, I don't think it's going to be like the cure all potion. Like, it's not like a med kit in a video game suddenly heals all the damage up.
Really, really good points, and I'm glad that we got to that because we take objective thinking here. And for anybody who's just now joining us, I'm going to reintroduce us a little bit early. I am your host Norgoz of the weekly Warcry podcast. That is every Friday at 7 Pacific. We have meaningful discussions surrounding community-driven topics. I'm glad you are all here this evening. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everybody who is joining us, and we have LeninCat, who is a competitive player, very well known in the competitive scene. I have MystaKyle, the toxicest of Tiandis. And I have Mr. ThatSkullGuy, ThatSkullGuy, the cream, the self-proclaimed cream of the crop. Isn't that right, brother?
Cream of the crop, brother.
Yeah. All right. So, guys, we've been talking about a lot of topics tonight. We talked about controller versus keyboard and mouse, how input delays, as well as other things, are some benefits and takeaways from that. Sometimes, what really comes down to is whatever you're most comfortable with and whatever you can do the best performance with. Because you can do. We used Baxter as an example. Like I was just talking about that a moment ago. Like we used Baxter as an example. He plays pretty much at a competitive level. He gave it. We talked about to him, I think 3 episodes ago, roughly 3 episodes, maybe it was 4, 3 or 4 episodes ago. He was on the show, and we asked him like, why is it that you don't play competitively? And he said he prefers not to go into that realm. He prefers to play at that level, and he'll play other people that are at that level, but he doesn't want to go into that kind of really sweaty kind of gameplay. To kind of, I'm paraphrasing a quote. And I understand that. I do. I completely understand that. But him as an example, uses controller over keyboard and mouse, and his reactions are insane. It's crazy. And there's other people that are out there. That's one of the examples I know a lot of people are going to recognize, and that's why we brought that up. We talked about cheating in For Honor. Whenever you're accused of cheating, there's legitimate cheats. There's legitimate lag switching that goes on very, very rarely. But there there's a lot of accusations that go around, right? That we kind of dissected a little bit, and a lot of it comes down to either inability to react to certain things, inability to understand that, oh shit, they might not have been locked on to me. Uh, as an example, if somebody's doing an out of lock attack where they're locked onto somebody else and you're getting hit by something you tried to parry externally, that's that may be one of the reasons. It may not be latency, it may not be that you missed it, or it may not be cheating. It's just that you didn't have the opportunity. You tried to do something you couldn't do. And we talked about how that's actually a good thing to have. Those types of things where it brings options and flexibility and to use Fatal Fate's favorite word, was it dynamic? It makes things dynamic. We're currently talking about spectator mode. whether or not fight clubs are coming back, what all it's going to be bringing to the show, what it's going to bring to the show in terms of, and by show I mean For Honor, uh, what it's going to bring to the table. And there's a lot of things that it really brings to the table and what it opens up the doors for. But MystaKyle and we've and Lennon have made the really good points that is it really going to change things overnight? No, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not going to do that. So we have to we have to take a step back and realize that the more that we realize and the more that we come to terms with, the more that we realize what our responsibilities are in terms of if we really want that to do so much better. If we want to have more competitive, we want to have more tournaments, we want to have more fight clubs, we want to have better, we want to have more people viewing things in the For Honor directory. We as content creators, we as players, we as tournament organizers, we as a community, we are For Honor. We together have to make sure that we present everything in the best ways with those tools. Tools like spectator mode. And to piggyback off of that, tools in For Honor can be something as simple as training mode. Training mode is one of your best tools to tell new players, hey, you're just getting into For Honor. You're having trouble with reacting to Raider Stunning Tap or to Aramusha or to Orochi. Tell you what, go into training mode and then let them spam it, and then just over time you're going to realize you're going to get used to it and you're going to start anticipating it, and you will improve. That's some of the best things. That's one of the best tools in the game right now. If you want to learn it, if you want to be able to react to stuff, that's one of the best tools. So, our next question is going to be, how can we encourage more? Wait a minute. Hang on a second. Let me back up for a moment. We already talked about what kind of opportunities fight clubs open for players and content creators. Before we move on to our final discussion, and that's in regards to the reworks, we're taking a second look at reworks at post-patch. We're talking Jormungandr release. We're talking Nobushi, which will be our first topic. She's a big hot topic right now because some people say she got nerfed to shit, and I would disagree with that. Shinobi, and those are the three characters that we're mainly going to be focusing on, but I'm sure others will come up along the way. So, we already reintroduced everybody, so we're going to go straight into this. I want to get feedback from, let's see, we started out with, I think, Skull in the last segment. I want to start with MystaKyle in this segment, and then going forward on, we'll hear from Lennon in the following one. First off, I want to hear from Nobushi. Have you... in regards to Nobushi, we've some of the things that they've been changed. Let's establish the basis of this. Nobushi had some changes where heavy no longer confirms the kick. The biggest one is hidden stance is not a counter to guard break anymore. That's the biggest change. She was insanely strong in mid lane, mainly because of that. In place of this, what you got is a sort of a trade-off, if you will. You have bleeds now stacking. That actually opens up a punish for Shaman where she can actually do a double bite. Freeze did a video about this. Because it only removes one bleed, I believe is what it is. Don't quote me on that. But I think that's how the new functionality is. If Nobushi puts multiple bleeds on, Shaman only takes the first bleed. But if it's her own bleed, it's basically you bite and it's gone. But like I said, I could be mistaken on those details, but I'm pretty confident that's exactly how it works out. Go watch Freeze's video. I'm not the mechanic master. That being said, so Nobushi gets stacking bleeds. She gets effective 400 millisecond lights from hidden stance. Now I'm going to explain this because they are 500 milliseconds, but 100 milliseconds of the light coming out of hidden stance is quote hidden. So you get a 400 millisecond indicator. Think what Raider's stunning tap is when it was first released. That's essentially the same thing that's taking place. Is that you have a 400 millisecond indicator on a 500 millisecond attack. So if you're paying more attention to what the movements are, you're going to be cool. You're going to be just fine. And again, it's 400 milliseconds. If you train yourself, you can react to it. I want to say there's something else that she got or changed.
They removed Viper. No, not Viper's Retreat. It's the back dodge when you block. I forget what it's called.
Retreating Viper.
I don't remember. It's
Wind
when
Vipers?
you block and you dodge backwards, and it would put you in this really long
Swift
animation.
recoil?
And it sucked.
Swift recoil.
Swift recoil. That was it. Yeah, that move got removed. That was a good change.
Speaking
I
of
stole
Kaya,
that from chat. Sorry, Kaya.
appreciate it.
Wow.
Hey, listen, I don't care what the moves are called. I just know what they do. That's the thing. All right, so moving forward is so that's something. Those are the basic changes that happen in Nobushi. You know, people are
Yeah, there's one more in there that's kind of major that I'll bring up, but yeah, it has to do with sidewinders.
Okay, go for it. We'll go for it while we're on it. Go for it.
Sidewinders now branch into dodge, or dodge now branches into sidewinders like a normal dodge attack. It used to be, I think you could branch from dodge to sidewinder 100 to 300 ms, and now it's 200 to 400, I believe. I think that's what it is.
I need to pull up these patch notes. I'm trying to go.
I don't
back
even
and
know
look.
if that's on the patch notes, but that's how it works now. It's a really big nerf.
I don't think that one is. That's why I was like trying to pull it up because I don't think
Yeah,
that one
it
is.
also affects her normal dash lights. Like, so for example, Tiandi right now, Kyle might know this. If you do a dash light and you buffer the dash light, you lose out on iframes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Delaying
So
is hugely important to
you
punish
can-
those moves in the game.
You can activate your dash light 100 ms into the side dodge, which cuts your iframes 100 milliseconds short, which you don't want. So usually, you have to have some semblance of timing to avoid stuff like a conk bash and punish on reaction. You can't buffer the light attack really hard. They no longer have that sort of behavior on Nobu. Her dash lights now work like every other character, like a PK dash heavy or Nusha dash light or whatever. All those attacks come out at 200 to 400, I think, roughly speaking. Might not be true for every character, but what that does for Nobu is it makes external sidewindering people, and getting them in block stun and keeping them in place in a fight. It makes it a lot worse because it means she's more vulnerable to GB than she was before. And that's a big deal because if you don't hit somebody with the sidewinder or hit their block, it means they basically get a free GB on reaction. And that's like really, really bad for the Nobu. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to ramble on. I'll let Kyle, take his turn because he was gonna talk originally. But that's one major thing I wanted to throw in there because that's not on the patch notes.
I appreciate that. I'm not gonna remember everything there is to remember, and I acknowledge that. That's something that I have to.
I don't expect you to. It's like
Exactly.
Again,
that's the
nerd,
thing.
Nerd shit, basically.
Well, it's something. Well, I mean, dirt shit on something I'm supposed to be good at. But anything I can read, I can typically remember. But maybe that's there, maybe it's not. But I know that that's probably something Freeze went over in like the undocumented changes stuff. That's probably in there. I watched that video I think twice, but that was earlier this week, and I've slept since then. So I'm I'm a terrible individual. Kill me now. Moving forward though, MystaKyle, I wanted to come back to you on this. So we are talking about Nobushi and the changes that she's playing. I know that you don't really fight, or you don't play Nobushi that much, but I imagine you've encountered your share of Nobushi since this has taken place. So
Yeah.
tell me, with your personal experience, what would you say? Where would you place her in comparison to where she was previously? Did you ever? Let me start with this. Did you ever experience a true mid lane Nobushi prior to the rework?
Yes.
Okay, so then
Yes.
you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so go ahead and give me your thoughts on that. Glad we got a good basis for this. Go ahead.
Far below where she was. We'll start with that because here's the thing. I know you described, that hidden indicator, the hidden light at a hidden stance. It comes 100 milliseconds earlier, similar to the way Raider's stunning tap was. I realize that works in the same functionality, but those lights are still parry bait. It's still easy. It's easy for me, so I don't even want to imagine at a level like Lenin and them. It's still parry bait. I don't care how that change did not improve those at all. Nobushi, as far as I know, at 1v1 pre-patch didn't have a whole lot of out of stamina pressure other than the heavy out of hidden stance that could guarantee the kick. And now with it gone, she has 0. If you run out of stamina in a 1v1 against an Nobushi, don't worry, just wait a minute, it'll come back. It's not a big deal at all. As far as fours go, she is still. I actually was talking to some competitive players about this, and I asked their opinion. So I'm branching a little bit off what I've been told, and to make me sound a little smarter. But here's the thing: is she still good at mid? Sure, but she's not the best at mid. There are better heroes for that now, or at least ones that are a lot more people are equal to her than were before. So sure, she's still viable at mid, but she's not impossible to kill anymore. And she's not, just a demon in the mid lane that's just constantly taking out minions and just running the score up before you can even do anything. So that means that she's taking a knock in Dom. That doesn't mean she's terrible in Dom. That just means that she is worse than she was because of the nerfs to second wind and some of the other things that they did there. So with those there, then she's went down. I just gave you reasons why at my level in duels that she's went down because I'm fighting these Nobushis now that have less tools. And I don't even know all of the things like Lena was just describing about the different guard break vulnerabilities and the things that were changed there. Imagine when I have a whole season to learn that, right? Imagine when I've learned those things to add into it. She's only going to become weaker in a 1v1 state in that case. And with the nerfs in fours, she's just become worse. Now, I've heard the argument before that, if played purely optimally, she was broken in fours before, so that she had to be brought down. But the thing is there are still extremely good characters in fours, i.e., see Treejack playing mid as Conqueror with heal on block. Good luck ever killing him. So if she's been brought down, and there are other people who are still insanely good at mid. So all you did was just make her from going from a required pick in a Dominion team to sure, if you want to play her, you can, and that's what it became. And I don't know. I think that Nobu players probably knew that they were going to lose the ability to be the best mid lane character, but I don't think they thought they were going to just get knocked down everywhere. They thought they would get some type of reciprocation that would maybe bring them up in duels, or maybe if they play a support role in mid, but then they can rotate to a point and help in a gank situation better than they could before, or win a 1v1 against a really good player or a good thing. If they had that ability, I think that's kind of what Nobu players wanted from the ones I've spoke to. So the short answer is yeah, I think she went down in most areas because she lost her S plus tier ability at mid in Dominion. She is not any better at ones. I mean, not realistically. If there is an improvement, it's very minimalistic, and I argue that there isn't one. So it really wasn't a whole lot, in my opinion. You didn't give her much. You took away her ability to be overpowered at mid, and didn't give her an ability to go to other points and be viable. Because like Lennon was saying earlier, I also enjoy the idea of balancing towards 4v4s. I don't mind that at all. So if you want to say, hey, we had to nerf Nobushi because she was so broken at mid based on how all her feats worked and her minion clearing ability, we had to nerf her. Okay, fine, but you have to trade off so that she can fill another role in fours legitimately. And maybe she does. Maybe she's just a less viable mid character now. But when you've got characters who are supremely stronger than her that can still play mid, like Raider, like Conqueror, and things like that, you didn't give her another role. You just took her out of being powerful and just started limiting more and more to the characters that are truly viable picks if you want to win.
All right, so I'm just now, literally just now, getting to. This entire time I've been trying to find the stupid patch notes, dude. That's what I've been trying to do. So for those of you watching live, that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at my phone so I can try and find something. And I just now found some of the stuff, and I think the one of the thing we're looking for is let's see. Well, there's a lot. There's a shit ton of stuff here on Swift. Their Swift recoil has been removed. All right, so here's the note for Nobushi. Okay, this is the developer note for Nobushi because I know not everybody reads patch notes. They gave
I know what this
justification
is.
for everything that they did. Right now, this is the justification. This is the explanation that the developers gave and commented on the Nobushi changes. There's a long list of them. We reduced her overall safeness when she is killing minions in the lane and when she is in group fights, and that's mainly going to be probably going to be around her hidden stance. Now it's got guard break vulnerability. That's a big change. By making your hidden stance a bit more offensive, accelerating the kick, and making so that her bleeds stack, we hope that she will find a bit more prowess in 1v1 scenarios. We also want to reduce Nobushi's hard-hitting moves and bring them down to more standard values. So it is somewhat generalized, but if they're gonna like overanalyze and put in all the reasons for everything that they do one by one, we'd be here all fucking night. So they are giving reasons for the reasons for what they're doing. I mean, there's is a lot of changes. I'd encourage you guys to check those out. Like Cobra Strike, dodge now branches to Cobra Strike from 200 to 400 ms, from 100 to 300 ms, which is something I think we mentioned before. The Sidewinder, dodge now branches to Sidewinder from 200 to 400 ms, and went up from 100 to 300 ms. So that's kind of a big difference. Um, there's a lot of things. So again, this is all like tech speak. I don't expect anybody to remember all this shit.
You can't think about that while you're fighting.
Yeah,
You're not fighting someone and going, "Oh wait, he's got a 300 millisecond delay between this." You got to get used to it. It's
you
good
just
to look
react.
over it. You should refer to that stuff to know that things have changed, things have gotten faster, things have gotten slower. But
You should, yeah, and then you train yourself to react and read and be expecting these things.
know the
All right.
options that your opponent has out of everything.
All right, so moving forward, as I've heard from MystaKyle, and I'm sorry, I want there's something I wanted to follow up and ask you, I'm sure, but when I'm trying to read shit, as a host, it's terrible as a host. I try to read something, and I don't know about you guys, I can't. I read something and I can't listen at the
Toxic
same
host,
time.
man.
I am a toxic host. I'm terrible. Norgoz toxic.
Jeez.
Can we get some Norgoz toxics in the chat right now? Lennon, you talked to us a little bit about some of the changes in terms of the like the sidewinders, the and how they chain and whatnot. So give me a little bit more on what you think where Nobushi is compared to where she was. And to start off as a basis, I know the answer is yes, but I still need to ask the question. You have experienced a true mid lane Nobushi, correct? Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Go for it, brother. What are your thoughts on Nobushi?
I think what they did to this character is a real shame because the character is easily one of the best design they've had by far since release. I think that in no dimension can anybody argue that they gave her actual offense in return for all the nerfs to her defense and damage. I think the bleed damage nerf as well is also really. I think it's a bit much, but maybe not. I don't know. But definitely the biggest nerf is I feel the fact that hidden stance has no use now. Like it doesn't feel like there's a purpose to it. You could say, oh well, it's actual like a stance now. It just has iframes or dodge. It's not iframes technically speaking. It's dodge frames. So it's vulnerable to undodgeables still. The problem is they locked these moves behind a stance, but this game has shit stances. In another fighting game, when you enter a stance manually, for example, I play Tekken, so whatever, I could name 1,000. But generally speaking, when you enter a stance, there's maybe about 4 to 6 frames at most where you pick an option and it starts coming out. In For Honor, stances are kind of like they just take 6 years to let you branch out into other moves. I think that's a really big problem, personally, because it makes everything either too reactable or too situational to be useful. But there are examples of stances working in this game, like Shaolin Key Stance. I think is perfectly fine, or Chi Stance, however you want to pronounce it. But now that the way they've addressed Nobu, they removed another thing that's worth mentioning is that also they noted a kick change. They reduced the speed by 33 ms, or 33 ms basically. So it's 566 ms now. Still very much reactable. But they also, it used to not be guard break vulnerable. So you could beat somebody dodging and guard breaking you before. Now you can't with that option. And the lights also don't really work for that as far as I know and have seen. So you have no options to beat somebody just dodge guard breaking you on a read, which is really kind of sucks. But yeah, I think the only two good changes that happened are the stacking bleed and the removal of swift recoil. I think that move was trash, so I'm glad they removed it. Her chains being, or her opener lights and miscellaneous lights being slightly faster doesn't really make a huge difference. I remember specific wording on earlier on was that they were making Nobushi more competitive. They did exactly the opposite. They made her so much less competitive. Nobody wants to pick her now. Relative to characters like, and I'd love to talk about him, Kensei. I think Kensei's changes are fucking fantastic. Almost every single one I completely am like, yeah, like that, duh, like no shit, that should have been the case. I think it's amazing that we have that kind of polarization where we have stuff like Nobu and Shinobi with Kensei's changes on this patch. It's wild to me. It's like it's like the people are locked in different rooms and everything comes together like 6 weeks later. It's really weird. So that's what I think about Nobu. I don't think she's a pick anymore personally. I don't think people will want to pick her. I think she is less fun. I think she's less safe, which was a goal, and I mean they definitely achieved that. How they got there kind of sucks because they didn't really give her much in return. That's really all I had to say.
Lennon, I have a question. If you, from just your opinion alone, and it doesn't have to be the official opinion of the competitive people, do you think now generally the order of who you want in mid, or at least most powerful, goes in no particular order: Conk, Raider, Lawbringer, and then Nobushi after that? Is that kind of how it works? You felt too?
I could order it for you. I feel Raider and Kensei are probably tied, then LB, then Conk, I'd say.
Yeah.
That's how I think that'd go. I'd 100% after the buffs that Kensei got would rather have a Kensei on my team than a Nobu. 100%. There's no situation where I don't want that hero.
And Nobu's probably in that 5th place, you think?
I don't even think she's in 5th, dude. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think
yeah.
I think their character sucks.
I don't think. I mean,
I think I'd rather have a Warden on my team.
Wow.
Legitimately.
That's rough.
Wow.
I mean, and the thing is, right? Like, and he got buffed this patch. He can clear mid better now. He has better hitboxes and lower recoveries.
Yeah.
You're right. He
Like,
does.
Again,
actually,
these are in the same patch. These are in the same patch.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me, dude.
Here's the question. This is probably a stupid question. I ask a lot of stupid questions, and I ask a lot of stupid questions out of context because I want to get people's genuine answers. So my question here, and this is actually legitimate, kind of like an observational kind of thing. Is it just me, or does it look like they made Warden's sword a little longer, like legitimately, like aesthetically?
I have no idea.
Is it just my mind like playing tricks with me because I know that he's
This is just you.
To avoid TOS, I'm gonna not answer that question.
Sure, yeah, I'm gonna
fuck off, Skull. You already made this a freaking R-rated podcast.
You know what? You knew what you were getting into. I just want you to know.
That's what she said. So here's the deal.
I gotta go.
Shut up.
No,
Sit down. You're next, bitch. Yeah, you, Skull. So here's the deal. Right now, if you're just joining us, guys, we're talking about the reworks that are happening. We're talking about Nobushi right now. We're going to be talking about Jormungandr and Shinobi as well. Those are the 3 main characters I want to touch base with. This is a week. Wait. No, I guess this is technically 2 weeks post-patch. 1 week after Jormungandr was released. And so, that's the big deals. So you've got... Or, I mean, technically, if we want to get really, really picky about this, it's 2 weeks ago. If you had the season patch for anybody who wants to, like, fact-check me to death, I mean, let's just go ahead and let's beat the dead horse.
If any of you say something like that in chat, I'll ban you.
Let's beat the dead horse, all right? Oh, goodness gracious. All right, so again, thank you all for joining us. I appreciate it. We're going to hear from SkullGuy. What are your thoughts on Nobu? Now, first, have you experienced a true mid-lane Nobushi yet?
Oh, 100%. It's been 4 minutes into a game and I look up and I was like, oh, that's an interesting score for a Nobu. But Nobu in general, I feel like they just took so much from like her pivotal kit. And while bleeding stack is really nice.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to be real with you. I killed someone with bleed from 50% health when I played Nobu for an hour yesterday. Like that feels really good. You worked for those bleeds, but at the same time, why would you do the certain why would you nerf top heavy from 38 to 32 damage now if you want her to be more offensive? It just doesn't make sense to me. Yes, we made her offensive in 1v1s, but we got rid of a lot of things that made her offensive.
Can I wanna jump in, and I'm definitely gonna let you get back to it.
Yeah.
Beyonce had the best film of the year.
The problem with that argument for me is when you give characters high damage punishes, they have more reason to be defensive, not less.
Good point.
At least at top level. You know, the thing that happened with pre-rework Lawbringer is not only could he not attack, but his punish damage was through the roof, and it's still pretty goddamn good. That's part of the problem is when you can incentivize defensive play, it's gonna be off damage a lot. Note that usually when we see the win rate matrices, and you know obviously this isn't really a competitive thing as much as it is, but it does kind of reflect in competitive play. You'll note that characters generally with stupid damage output in 4v4 at least are way up on that list of win rates. Lawbringer, Aramusha, Raider, those characters have really good damage. JJ also all have extremely high damage. So I think it's the opposite. I think buffing damage makes it so that you want to attack less, not more. It's kind of dumb to say, but it makes no sense. But
yeah,
you ultimately kind of understand that like parrying and defense in this game are so easy that you want to abuse it.
Yeah,
go back to what you're.
I 100% agree with you on that. For me, I'm coming from a less competitive standpoint and more. I am big Raider. I throw top heavy in a group fight because it does most damage.
Yes, big damage, big PP damage.
Big damage. I throw heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just the borderline, they took everything, gave me stack bleed. I have nothing else.
Yep. That we 100% agree on. They took everything else.
That's it. That's all I gotta say about Nobu. They didn't. They nerfed in 4s, nerfed in 1s.
Well, isn't it weird a little bit that they took all the stuff that like, you took the advice of the competitive player. This is not hating on the devs. I'm just saying in how now that we saw it and how it worked out. Like we saw it and we all went, okay, well Nobushi's broken in mid because of her ability to basically be invincible over there. So we got to get rid of that. Why not just give her something back? I mean, is it too much? Is it changing the identity? Like, I don't think so. You don't have to go from broken to not a worthy pick.
I think the problem is they think these small things make a difference, and they do on characters that function properly already, and that kind of work. Like BP, he didn't need 20 damage on a bash. Is 17 good? Sure, why not? That's a totally fine adjustment, right?
Right.
That makes total sense, but that character worked already. Like he functioned. Nobu functioned in defense only, not in actually being offensive.
Right.
So that's why it's kind of sad that this happened, and you know that the way they are, they don't address things very quickly.
Here's the thing.
Here's
what I'm getting. I keep hearing you guys talking about how Nobushi is not offensive, not offensive, not offensive. I think that the phrase we're looking for is that now she is offensive. I'll wait.
She's offensive.
I'll wait.
Yeah, she's offensive.
I'll wait.
Where are you going with that?
For
I'll
a
wait.
second, I was like, did he just not listen to anything we just said?
You gotta use the 200 IQ on that one. But
she offends my sensibilities and nothing.
You guys could see the gears grinding in my head.
Yeah.
What did he just say?
A minute. Podcast's been going on for a little bit. I was a little slow in catching that one.
The my thought process on Nobushi is that I think that it's kind of been said that there was I do think that the hidden stance guard break counter. I know a lot of people really wanted that to stay. I know a lot of people are really upset about that. The Nobu mains, but you really got to take from this that I'm sorry it was too strong. If you want to throw a zone out as like a counter or something like that, I think that's okay. But being able to counter guard break every time on reaction with a hidden stance, it's like it's practically unpunishable. Like your guard break's gonna whiff. I mean, what do you? I don't know what you guys were expecting from that. You can basically punish anyone every time, pretty much guaranteed. An option select parry For those of you who don't know what an option select parry is, we're talking about using like a zone parry. You just put the input on zone on an attack because you're using that as an option because if they feint it, then you're counting on you still landing the attack. Only certain characters it's really good and safe with. But I digress. Is that my point? Is that that's okay? I think that's an offensive directive or it's an offensive solution to a problem that you're trying to deal with in a defensive way. But hidden stance, some people might argue that, oh yeah, well hidden stance is the same thing because you dodge it, then you hit them. No, it's different because you're taking the risk of your zone not landing, or somebody like a Zerker, if they feint that heavy, or they let the heavy go long enough to where and they see your reaction, and they're able to deflect your lights if you react too quickly. Depending on how the matchup plays out. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I'm talking about. They're two different, completely different situations. Like if you just use hidden stance though, there's only limited things that could really punish that move. There's really limited things. You could if you were anticipating that, you could maybe dodge into them. Still, some people didn't have the reach with the regular melee attacks. There's a lot of things that are going with that. I don't want to go too much into it because I'm not the mechanics master, but the point remains that it had to go. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I know that not being somebody who plays Nobushi regularly, I know the Nobu mains. There's a few out there that I've seen on Twitter that are really 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 upset about this, and they feel that hidden stance counter guard break was like the soul of Nobushi, and that was her unique mechanic. Um, that's where you kind of lost me when you saw that as her unique mechanic. Well, what about Raider Dodge GB? That was a unique mechanic. That was actually I thought that was actually kind of fun, in some
Mhm.
ways, it was that was in some ways that was its unique mechanic, but it kind of had to go after Raider was stronger, right?
Yeah.
But as far as Nobushi was already at that level.
Bring
Nobushi
back
was
Dodge Guard
already at
break.
that level. Nobushi was at Raiders level, right? So we had to take away hidden stance. The hidden stance counter to guard break. Okay, we had to take that away. We give her some bleed stacking. We adjust some damage. Not that much. I think the really big thing is like the combos and the timing changes and the inability to apply certain pressures in some ways. But the kick being sped up and some of the combos, I think, for full population, using the dev terms, for full population, for casual players, I think she's in some ways in a similar, if not better, spot for certain levels. If you get higher up in the MMR, you get to competitive level. Yeah, that's where she starts to take a nosedive. And if you've never experienced a true mid lane Nobushi, you may not know what I'm talking about. Somebody please correct me on this because I know, but essentially it's basically because you have hidden stance on guard break as a counter. That is basically your entire mid lane. You can do, you're fighting in the middle of go.
So what I
I
want
should
to
have asked you for a
clarify,
better example.
the hidden stance option select is you see an indicator, you press heavy, you cancel it into hidden stance. If they feint it, you counter guard break. If they don't feint it and they dedicated it, you dodge it and then you punish them. That was the part that was really annoying.
Yeah,
I mean, there's some other things that are annoying about it, but like, yeah, that was a big thing, and the fact
thank
that
you.
blocked heavies as well uh, guarantee the kick into bleed light.
Yeah,
That in itself wasn't a bad thing. I think the on block guarantee is fine. I wish they would stop getting rid of them because I think they're like actual pseudo offense in the game, but they clearly don't want them. But that's the main thing is that anytime somebody did an attack or not a bash, but like any indicator they threw out, a zone, a light, a heavy, you reaction parried it, or you're basically getting a reaction parry on a light, a counter guard break for free if they heavy feint to guard break, or you dodge the heavy and you get a big punish for it. And that's
there you
just
go.
like, and especially with her damage at the time, being the way it was, is you get almost 60 damage for a heavy into kick into bleed on Nobu for dodging a heavy that has like long recovery. That was just not fun. That was what made her really irritating in like a 1v1 against the other mid laner sense.
Exactly. I remember when I first
Yeah.
picked up Raider and I got some reps in him. That's when I found, and I don't remember the guy's name now, but I encountered them a few times, and every time they were on Nobu, we were going mid lane. I remember doing it on Sentinel, and it was a hell of a freaking time. I mean, every time I'd go up against them, I got them once or twice, and they would get me. They would beat me 2-1. I'll put it that way. They would beat me 2-1. Every kill I got on them, they got two more on me. It was insanely frustrating, and exactly what Lennon is describing in terms of the counter to getting uh the guard break from basically a whiffed guard break using the hidden stance. That is a big deal. I might, and I might, hell, it might even be arson PR. It very well, actually, I think it probably is. I think
It
it is
probably
actually.
was.
I think it is actually arson fucking PR.
You know, something I want to throw out there
It's too
too,
good.
though. When you talked about like, Nobushi was Raider broken before. I'd like to say this, that Nobushi may have been broken, but Nobushi was only broken at the highest level by the most competent Nobushis. That's why I think this was an oddly received thing by the community. Um, Rep 5, Rep 50, Rep 500, you can pick up, play Raider, and go, this guy's stronger than the other people.
Yep.
I mean, it just is what it is. No matter if you play super optimally or super button pushy or
He's
whatever, you can go, wow, this guy's better than PK. Like it's obvious. You can just tell that. With Nobushi, it was not that way. You did not see a real Rep 5 running the mid and be like, oh, did you know I can counter guard break option select at a hidden stance and then zone to kill minions to run up the... It wasn't what was happening. They were just running around and doing things. So Nobushi wasn't broken until you got to a really high level. And then so when they knocked these nerfs down, I think that so many people were just like, well, you killed her. Like, how could you nerf her? She wasn't even strong before. And that's why I think this was just oddly received by everyone. You can look at Raider at a low level, mid level, or high level and know that he's stronger than other people. You didn't know that Nobushi was stronger than other people until you fought Arson PR, until you fought Prime Diversion, until you fought Clutch, whoever you fought, right? And then you found out like, oh, I got it. That's something that I can't deal with, that I'm unable to deal with. I don't know how to deal with. So I think that's a little bit about why it was taken funny, because when you say that Nobushi was Raider broken, I think 3/4 of the community would probably be like, what? I
Well,
beat Nobushi's up all the time. That's easy, man. I never die to a Nobushi. Yeah, it's
I
like, yeah, but you didn't fight the right ones.
Right, and you're also not, it's not in the right situations either. On 2v2s they're really good in brawls they're really good for both their defense and their offense and their ability to switch between the two very quickly. In 4v4s they're mainly good for trying to get in there and gank. I mean, if you have a freaking shaman as an example, you just tap them with a bleed. You've done your job. You can go back to mid lane now. But yeah, no, I understand exactly where you're coming from. There's a lot of people that just didn't fully understand Nobushi, but is that the fault of the? Is that really the fault of the developers though, or is that the fault of the players? I mean, we could all go into this whole big talk about how, like, yes, there needs to be more discussion about how to play heroes and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the players do have tools that we can utilize, and we're not utilizing them probably to the most extent that we possibly can. There's content creators all over the place that tell, hey, here's how you play this, here's how you play that, from a beginner to advanced to pro. These are how you play this hero, and these are how the different ways that you play this hero at these different levels. Because at different levels of play, there's different ways to play that hero optimally. And I know that sounds weird, but there really are, because there's different. If people at bronze rank are not playing at the same exact level that people are in like a gold or plat, and or we'll say plat, and then moving to like a master grandmaster, those players are not playing it the same way that people like at gold or plat are playing. They're completely different mindsets. They're completely different play styles in many cases, and so yes, you're right. There, it's not encountering. It's not. You're encountering the wrong Nobushis. I can agree to that. But the thing is that the players that are not optimally using the Nobushi, that's not entirely the fault of. I don't think that's entirely the fault of the development team.
So,
Right.
so one last thing I want to say, and then we should probably get onto like
Yeah, we probably should. We keep
George,
going back. This
George
is a good.
or
This has been a good
Kensei or
talk.
whatever, right?
This is a good talk.
The two main things I take away from this is one, like you were saying, there's an optimal way to play the same character at different levels. That is not unique to this game. That is a fighting game thing. For example, Tekken, at green ranks when you're trash at the game or whatever, right? Like you're playing Kazuya and you're just hell sweeping people over and over again. They don't know. They don't know that they can stay on the ground. They don't know that they can tech roll at a certain time and whatnot, right? They don't know any of that shit. Uh, and so we have that kind of similar phenomenon in this game where people just don't understand the character on a level where top level players do, and the strategies change at that point too. And leading off of that, it at least indicates to me that they care about balancing the game at a top level, regardless of how it actually turned out. It shows to me that at least they kind of know that it was such a problem at top level that they were willing to nerf it and still risk pissing low skill or people who don't know what the context of this nerf is. They were willing to do that. They didn't explain it very well. I think if they would go into more depth about hidden stance option select, maybe more people would understand. But I get why they didn't, because it doesn't really matter to
It doesn't matter.
98% of the player base.
Right.
So yeah, that's my closing thoughts on Nobu in general.
Good takeaway. All right. So yeah, we'll. I will give the opportunity for any closing thoughts if you guys have them before we move forward. It looks like you had something before Skull that I didn't give you the opportunity for.
I don't believe so.
Like you were hanging on something while one of us were talking, and I don't remember what point it is. You're kind of leaning.
Oh.
I think.
This is actually pretty important. It honestly feels like they took so much away from Nobu and didn't really give us like something new to like have either a new role or just give us something different. It's just like it feels like you took, yet again, probably a lot of Nobu players feel that you took her identity away, but you didn't give her a new one.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think that we've talked a lot about Nobu. I think we've had a lot of really good discussions about what the punish was before, what an optimal mid lane Nobushi was, and Lenin did a very good job explaining that, and I appreciate you doing that. I personally, I didn't encounter very many of those, and there was that one that I can specifically remember that will be ingrained in the back of my brain until the end of time. That again was on Sentinel, and was it was crazy. Every single time I came up against them, that's exactly pretty much what I experienced. The hidden stance into the guard break. Almost every time. I would try to like soft feint into a guard break. I would try and do a stunning tap. Again, playing Raider, I'd either get parried or something, and it was just wasn't working out for me. So it was anywho, moving forward. I have if you guys probably wouldn't notice this if I didn't point this out, because I would like to I take pride in my work, and I would like to believe that I do a decent enough job to where you don't know that when I'm sick or anything like that. But I haven't slept since yesterday. Not quite that long, but I might as well have. I did get a lot of sleep last night, and I've been missing sleep this entire week. And as you guys know that watch me regularly or know me in general, I deal with insomnia very much on a daily and nightly basis. I've had a very big bout with that this last month, so I apologize for my lack of consistency in terms of knowledge and whatnot. But that's why I bring different people on to cover different topics or different points of view that I might not be able to cover 100%. That's my job as the host. I'm not expected to know everything, and if I didn't have the right selection of people, I would just look like a damn fool. So moving on, you guys bring a lot to the table, and I appreciate you all. So we have also Lenin was a last minute addition to the cast. Fatal couldn't be with us tonight, although he's been in chat here and there. He couldn't attend, so we drug LeninCat in to represent the competitive aspect of the community, and he does an excellent job of that. He's very to give, what is it, level-headed. That's the phrase. You've been described as level-headed from people that are in and out of the competitive community, and that's why, again, like, you came to me and we were talking back and forth before, and that's why I decided to bring you back on, because I do value your thoughts and opinions and whatnot, because whether or not you are playing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you still know what's what, and I appreciate that. So
Thanks,
moving
man.
forward, no, thank you, really. So Nobushi, moving forward, we've talked about Nobushi, Jormungandr, and Shinobi. I'm actually more interested in talking about Jorm a week after, because we all know what this talk's going to be about Shinobi. Everybody's going to say Shinobi got nerfed to shit. because he got his hyper armor taken away.
Yeah, we can have that
Shinobi,
whole conversation.
Shinobi overall has been is still decent. It's not complete trash, but the hyper armor takes away so many of his options that it's really, I mean, as I understand it, he's on his backflip, although he doesn't have hyper armor, and he doesn't hardly go anywhere. As I understand it, he still has iframes for that. But I've
He
also been
cannot
told
be GB. Yep.
he cannot be GB. Okay, but I've also been told that he can still be knocked. He can still be hit while he's in backflip motion. So I don't know.
That's maybe.
I haven't seen enough. I haven't.
seen Shinobi played
I've
recently.
I've only played a few since then, and I played Enmu once, and then I played some other random Shinobi once, and Enmu beat the shit out of me, and the other random Shinobi is the one that I got my Jormungandr punish. See, with Jormungandr, if you parry their ranged heavies, just like you normally would in before the nerf or whatever, you get them on the ground, and what do you get from that with a Jormungandr? A very satisfying hammer slam.
Crunch.
Oh, it's
Is it actually
so
safe? Do you know?
yeah, because of the stun.
Well, what do you mean by stun?
The
Like
Jormungandr stuns both players for like
does
a
I
lot.
think you could probably
I'm
get the
not
guard
sure.
rank Lenin. I think
I'm not. Yeah, that's why I'm asking because I think it's pretty. It's like 1,100 ms or something like that, or 1,000 ms.
It's quite
I'm
a
not,
bit.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure how long it's knocked out. But basically, with I'm just gonna call him George from here on out because that's what everybody calls him.
Yeah.
That I know that I talk to. George's pin is like it's very high damage. But if you don't buffer it in a lot of scenarios, like you're getting it, you're ready to get it. It can be unsafe. I'm not sure if Shinobi pairing a ranged heavy is or not. Personally, I don't know because I haven't played the character.
I think if you,
I don't
I
have
think,
season pass.
I think buffering it. I think if you buffer it, I think it's fine. But I think if you have any delay at all, I think there probably is a really tight timing on it. There was a couple. I got him down 3 times, and there was a couple times I said, "Man, that might not have been safe." So you might be onto something there. But I think if you buffer it, I think it's okay.
Yeah. I want to get to George especially. So do you want to just go through Shinobi real quick? Because I mean I could kind of sum up what happened to him.
Yeah, my opinion on Shinobi is he's very garbage.
That's
That's my whole take. That's my
Shinobi-
whole take right there.
Shinobi got deleted.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say
go.
one thing about Shino.
Okay.
It just seems like for people like Enmu, if you played Shinobi pretty aggressively and didn't entirely rely on the hyper, it wasn't that bad. If you relied on the hyper armor a whole lot and you relied on backflip, you don't play Shinobi anymore probably. So I think that's how that's how we can sum up Shinobi.
Yeah. So the two things that are, I mean, everything's major nerf here, really. I mean, he still has stupid damage output. That's one thing worth saying. His heavies are still essentially 40 damage, and his double lights are 24, which is almost as much as a Centurion heavy. I think the removal of all the armor and revenge locking on Sickle Rain, especially. Oh my god, that stuff was stupid. You used to be able to Sickle Rain, and somebody would be or locked in place, and you could just hammer them, and multiple times. And that was like one of the only moves where you could still get like easy multiple hits from several characters. That needed to go 100%. Range GB is still silent in some circumstances, which is AIDS. I hate that still, even if it doesn't beat Revenge anymore. Armor moves definitely needed to go. I think the character sucks now. Slide nerf as well. You can Revenge activate out now, and it's less. I think it's less active frames. I don't remember off the top of my head. So it doesn't track side dodges as well anymore, which it used to just basically track dodges 100% of the time. Yeah, I think that character sucks, and it's another example of, well, they didn't even give him anything back, really. I mean, they gave him better reflex guard, but they didn't really give him anything back.
They did get the reflex.
That's really all they changed about the character. They removed a lot of armor, they removed his revenge locking, and his damage is still the same. I think he sucks, and I don't think he's that fun.
For Shinobi, the kind of the thought process that I'm seeing here for what the changes were for Shinobi, and like we said, it's quite a bit. We've got where there it is. Shinobi's already hard to hit, so we want to make Shinobi more vulnerable when hits happen. Sickle Rains Change to be interruptible also follows a recent change to Shigoki's Demon's Embrace, making bind moves uninterruptible on hit makes them less infuriating. That was the developer comments on the changes, and yeah, pretty much uninterruptible stance or hyper armor was pretty much removed from everything. But yeah, the one thing I take away from this is like you were saying is that the one thing that we really need to have adjusted on Shinobi is something that we haven't seen an adjustment on yet, and that's the ranged GB. That's something that I mean I don't know what the solution would be on it. I mean I don't necessarily think it should be removed because that's kind of part of his kit. That's how he's able to utilize his certain things from a range. But really, is it something that should be that quiet? So like you said, the
No.
sound. I don't think it should be that quiet. And it should be more easily. I mean, I don't know how to solve that. It's mainly in fours. In 1v1s, I mean, you know what's going on. But in 4v4s, that's where it's a problem, a serious problem.
It's kind of the same. I mean, people bitched about this also for a while. It's Highlander's Tier 4 Spears. You know how it has that, like, bell dinging sound? For a while, sometimes it just wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I remember that.
So suddenly, surprise, you have, a insta-kill Spear Storm coming down right on top of you. But it's so funny that feat still exists. They bug fixed the bell ringing. It's still really good.
Oh, yeah.
But Catapult is in this game. Like, what the fuck's going on there? Like did you forget?
They didn't actually remove that? I thought that was a removed feat.
Like, how the fuck is Catapult and Spear Storm still in the same game?
I love getting hit by that first spear and just stun locked to death. It just
makes
me so
it's
happy.
like, take me, baby. I got it all.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all I have to say on Shinobi. I don't think he's a competitive pick anymore. I don't think he's interesting, and his feats don't offer enough to the situation anymore. I mean, he has Smoke Bomb and Shooting Stars, I guess, but all he is just good to guard break damage, and sometimes you get a bullshit silent range GB.
Well,
I'd 100% rather have a Shaman.
The thing that you did say though that I do want to hit on again is that you said his damage potential, his damage output, is still very high, and what MystaKyle was, what MystaKyle and Skull, I'm again I'm my lack of sleep. What we've said here is that aggressive shinobi. Skull said this. Aggressive shinobis if you did that and you played safe, you didn't rely on hyper armor. It's not as much of a nerf, but I think that's primarily going to be in a 1v1 type of situation. Uh, the the thing that I do recognize that he's still got really high deflect damage. He's still got really a good damage potential off of deflects, and that's what I see a lot of really high end shinobis relying off of a lot, at least in ones. And again, I primarily play most of the time I play shinobis in ones. I don't see shinobis a ton in fours, and when I do, it's just like range GB and you're dead. That's pretty much
it's a lame
pretty
much
much
play style.
it's
why nobody
it's
plays
frustrating. It's frustrating for sure. And I mean, I don't. Should we take it away? Not necessarily, but there does need to be some kind of a sound cue, or maybe slow it down or something.
I just want Hyphenex yelling.
Yeah, it's like
as soon as GB.
Again, it's another instance of we took away a ton of shit from this character and gave him basically nothing in return. Shinobi is even more of a slight in that regard. Like, Nobu basically, at least she got 400 MS hidden stance lights and a 33 MS kick buff. At least they tried, but with Shinboy, they basically didn't even try at all.
Shinobi's rework was an apology from the devs for ever creating Shinobi.
Yep.
That's
the mess.
Yeah, that's all that really needs to be said.
That's exactly what it was.
Let's go to George.
Let's go. Let's
I have good opinions on George. I'm excited about that.
I have terrible opinions about George. I'm also excited.
I have mixed opinions on George, and I initially had a and I do want to take him like we're not here to bash the devs. We're here to give objective looks at everything. So as a friendly reminder to everybody. I don't remember the last time we introduced everybody. So I'm Norgoz. I'm the host of the podcast. I might as well be drunk because I'm certainly tired as hell. LeninCat, MystaKyle, ThatSkullGuy, my guests, awesome individuals. Thank you guys for joining us. Today, right now, we are talking about Jormungandr. And that is the Hammer Hero. It's Gratar and Hulda. Oh,
or George.
So good. Or George, which is what most people are calling him. George. George. I am now, you can't see it because the video is covering it, but I am a Jormungandr main. I have adopted him as my main. I said it before he even got released, before I even knew exactly, before they even released him on like the dev stream saying what he was going to be. I said, listen, I am going to main him throughout this season. I am going to try and become the best that I can at him. And once he was released, I saw the thing. I saw him on the dev stream. Like, okay, looks fun. And Jormungandr, after it was released, I got my hands on him the very first day, and I'm going to try to do my best. Hear me out on this, guys. I want to try and do my best to give a very good, objective look at Jormungandr, because the first day, I thought very little of him. The second day, which was the podcast last week, I still kind of had that in my mind, but I was starting to move towards a more positive look at him. This entire week, I've been playing Jormungandr quite a bit. And now that I've gotten more used to him, I still think there are 2 or 3 main problems that I want to see get fixed. But overall, I do think the hero is very fun. And he's very, he's very fun. It's very satisfying. The aesthetics are great. So that's something that I can appreciate. The hammer slam, getting the hammer slam on somebody is one of the most satisfying punishes I've ever experienced in this game. Very, very satisfying indeed. And that's even going into, going back the last time we had LeninCat on, we talked about the Glad's Max Punish. If you can land that shit, which is what, like 90 damage or some shit like that or whatever, a really high amount. But you have to whiff a light and some other stuff or whatever and get the spear just right. I digress. That's an impressive, fun thing to do. But even with that in mind, Jormungandr's hammer slam is just it looks aesthetically pleasing. It feels satisfying, and with his feet, his second feet, you get a shield off of that, which makes him kind of a little bit of a mini tank if you can get that off. But you have to work to get the stamina down. It is a trade off. You don't just get stam. You don't just get a max damage. To use Vale's term, you don't get max damage immediately. You got to punch him at least 3 times. It's like 55 stamina damage on the punch. I think it's 40. I think it's 40 off of a parry when you punch them, and it's 15. Something's 40. I don't remember. I think it's off a parry.
The parry counter is 15 stamina damage now. They nerfed it from the early access thing.
Are you sure you're not thinking of the initial grab from neutral? Because I'm pretty sure that one's 15.
No, I'm pretty sure the parry counter one was reduced to 15. I think I remember hearing that in a freeze video.
Something of it, I don't know. Somewhere along the way, one of them is 40, and I don't remember which one.
It's probably the parry counter, because before, if you so more fun with stamina, a heavy parry. So getting an attack parried is a 7x stamina multiplier. Right. So if you get a heavy parry, heavies on most characters, I think almost all of them cost 12 stamina, just like a normal thrown heavy, not charged or anything wacky. 12 times 7 is 84. Plus 40 is
You've lost me.
24. So
you now have a gray screen.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think they nerfed that before release. I think that's what happened, because otherwise, don't press heavy.
Right.
Yeah.
They also
he's still like that, but just don't press heavy. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Jorm also used to have a fun little punish as well that required you to work a little bit more, kind of like the Gladiator punish, and I liked it because it wasn't guaranteed. There were only certain situations where you could get it. If you had like talking about, okay, you're out of stam, you get them on the ground, you whiff the light, you get the unblockable heavy, you knock them on the ground, you get the 30, and then you get the 50.
Yeah,
here's the thing: is that it's a little different now. I think it's a little harder to get for, like, if you don't have a wall. If you have a wall, you can do it.
I think there's a unique punish at the wall that's like 90 something damage, but I think the 80 damage one, I think that's still functionally the same.
Yeah,
pretty sure.
I think it's
the ones that have been posted on like Competitive For Honor, like Spaniard posted. I think those are also still there, but they're 94 damage or something like that, because they get an extra heavy in there somewhere, I think. But it's something 90 something damage. I think it's a lot.
Well, the one I'm talking about is you whip the light, you go into unblockable, and this is like when you punch them on the ground, you don't have a wall. You
Yeah,
used to
that
be able to.
hasn't changed. You can
Yeah.
that's still a thing. It's still the exact same as it was before. The same thing that Crack showed you in that video that he put out on YouTube. It's still the same thing. You can still do it.
Well,
It's just hard. It's not easy, is what the thing is.
Mhm.
There's a trick to it. Like
Gotta work
you can
for it.
kind of guarantee it. He went into his. We actually I think learned this two different ways. I was told whiff light at a certain timing, like when their head bounces back into the ground.
mhm.
Then do a back step light into side unblockable, then hammer slam. He learned it as unlock relock technique, which is a lot more consistent.
I've heard that.
Those will both work as far as I know.
Okay.
But
Well,
yeah, yeah.
then I must be doing my timing entirely wrong because I went in training mode and I fucked it up every time. So my
It's
point
hard.
is
It's
my
hard.
point
It's
is that I
hard.
know, yeah, and right, it is not something that's a
It's
guaranteed thing. It is, and I think I think it's gotten harder because I'm
it's
tried.
definitely really hard to pull off in 4v4 because
Oh, for
anybody
sure.
could show up at any time and
Mm-hmm.
in 1v1 though, I'm pretty sure that like a top level player could probably land. I
Yeah,
don't think it's totally impractical.
Consistently, probably.
yeah, what I'm exactly right there though is that the difference between like I wouldn't try that in a 4v4 situation, and
Mm,
probably in like 90% of the cases,
yeah.
unless it's a 1v1 situation with that person while you're in a 4v4 mode, like exactly what you were saying. Anyway, my point is that he's really really satisfying to get the hammer slam, but you do
Mhm.
have to work to get there. There is that potential for that max punish, but for me, the way I would say is like the only way I think I would go for it that I do is that if you can get them up against the wall. So kind of like with a raider is that you can get 80 damage off of that. You get the 30 from the unblockable, knock them back on the ground with it when they're out of stam. Then you get the 50 from the hammer slam. So you do have to work for it, and I still stick with like going for the wall. It's not I don't know, for me it feels finicky and clunky, and I don't remember if I've ever landed it or not. But what I can tell you is that it does feel fun. The aesthetics are great. His lights are basically him punching you in the face with a freaking hammer. Okay, a giant freaking brick on a freaking stick. It's fun. The sounds
Brick on a stick.
are very awesome, and I mean they're very satisfying, and yeah, they're his four is not so good as well as a general tool. I found that it's something you specifically use as maybe a zoning tool. Like if somebody's trying to force their way into your point, and you've got a choke point where you're like on the bridge in freaking Temple Garden, and they're coming across that bridge, and you know they're not stopping. You can potentially use that as a zoning tool to try and keep them out because it's got a pretty decent range around it, but and you do get hyper armor during it. But the thing is that it's not something that's practical use. You're typically going to get better use out of his fourth feet. What is it? The horn
Scout.
called arms
Scout.
marked for death shit. Scout. Thank you. Yeah, the mark for death shit. That's you're going to get that has to last a really long time. You've got extra damage for everybody, and they're all marked on the maps and stuff. It's just a lot better. He
Mhm.
does have some decent feats overall, though. I mean, if you mix and match some of the perks together to enhance his feats, you're going to have a pretty decent tank if you can actually consistently land hammer slams, which at a higher level of play is going to be much harder because you feed revenge like a motherfucker in
Yeah.
fours. But
Oh,
you know,
God.
it is, but so it does have its downsides. Okay, I want to say this. I've gotten through my whole spiel. Here's my issues with it. One, range. He needs better range. Two, and now what I mean by range, I mean in range like his heavies. The actual range on his attacks, not necessarily his tracking per se, but the actual range itself. You can't hit somebody
Um,
that's to your right in most cases if if they're just like a step away from you. And if somebody dodges your unblockable, they're pretty much always going to get. They're always pretty much always going to miss, like 90% of the time. You can't keep throwing those punches out and then stop and finish your combo with a unblockable heavy and have them try and dodge it because they're trying to dodge the punch and they get caught by the unblockable. 90% of the time, it's going to be dodged regardless. It's just too short,
mhm.
and I think that should be tightened up a little bit more to where there should be some kind of a way to mix that up as a potential punish for trying to dodge that punch. So that's the main thing for me is that, and maybe if for trading purposes, maybe speed up the hyper armor on the opening heavy. Those are the two main things for me that I think he needs. I think Hyper Armor comes a little bit too late for the initial heavy for it to trade. It's already 800 milliseconds long as an attack. Maybe just come out a little bit quicker. Maybe that's just my opinions. I want to hear from you guys. What are your initial thoughts on it? I mean, overall, I do think it's fun. He does have his problems, but I mean, overall, my personal opinion, I don't think he's complete trash. He is fun to play. I'm going to start with on this section. Let's say we'll start with Lennon on this one.
Oh boy. Okay. I'm
Strap
like I said to you, I'm on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. I think this hero is really, really bad. At top level, again, like you said, revenge feeding like a mofo. It's awful. So he has a problem in and of itself right there. His bashes also don't guarantee any damage very easily. It's like you have to like preempt it, and it sucks, and it's damage reduced anyway. I think his feats are pretty okay. His unique tier 1 and tier 2 are pretty good. He has Scout, although that's banned in the Raven FHA arena, whatever you want to call him. The
strong.
upcoming Steel tourneys, Scout and Morale are banned for FHA arenas, front arenas. The main problem I have with the hero is just fundamentally, I think the stamina bully role sucks and it's unfun. I think he's fun to play. I think he sounds and looks fucking sick, but oh man, do I hate fighting that character. It's like anytime I hate having him on my team and I hate being against him. It's so weird. Because of course, when he's on the enemy team, he's always fucking up your team, getting kills for everybody, assists for everybody, renown for everybody. When he's on the enemy team, when he's on your team, he's just fucking like sitting right next to the guy doing the 600 miss neutral bash 6 times in a row until it lands, and being absolutely useless.
I see you've been watching my stream, Lennon.
Yeah. So the main problem I have with this hero is centered around Hammer Slam as well. I think it's super fucking visceral and satisfying to land, like you said, absolutely. But I think it's a really problematic move because it's all you want to do on the character is get to that. That's all you want to get to. How you get there is kind of sucky. I don't think it's particularly fun. His bashes don't guarantee any damage except for the parry counter, which is basically just a parry counter at that point. And I really think the one thing that needs to be removed from this character, straight up, is the finisher heavies unbalancing people when they're out of stamina, when they're knocking down when they're out of stamina. I think that enables way too much damage, especially 1v1, and it covers multiple options. And by that I mean, if somebody's out of stamina for whatever reason, they got bashed to death, whatever, they lose all their stamina. You go into light or heavy, and then you go to your finisher. So people might even want to just parry because they don't want to deal with the mix-up. They might just parry on indicator, hoping that it's a light attack, and that'll work. That's okay. That insofar as that's all right. The problem I really have with the character is that the unbalancing heavy chain finisher heavies make it so that you get that 80 damage punish, which I think is way too much for an out of stam punish. Personally, I think high damage on that is okay, but not that high. And he gets HP from the bash and shield from landing hammer slam in 4v4, so he's already got enough going for him on that. But the non-undodgeable finishers, the unblockable finisher to feint to guard break with the new change is also going to give you an 80 damage punish in a 1v1 scenario when there's no tense things going on. That'll land. You got horrible hitboxes along with that. That character cannot hit fucking anything without zone, which really limits him. I just think the stamina bully archetype isn't really fun. And I think a lot of it is enabled by chain finishers knocking down out of stamina people. I really think this is a key problem. It's just it enables too much damage and it covers too many options because it covers you feinting and then parrying, falling for the parry, and you dedicating the hit. It covers 2 options right there. So the only way you win is by dodging it somehow, which feint to guard break beats, or parrying it, which feinting beats, and then just parrying. There's certain ways you can avoid it with a back dodge, but that's also really not that interesting. It's just stupid high damage. He doesn't offer a lot in 4v4s because his range and his chase are awful. He doesn't have a dodge attack, and his shut down by dodge attacks really hard. He has no unreactable offense in chain or from neutral. 500 MS chain bash, I know a lot of people think is unreactable, but his is like so buffered. Like,
So it's bad.
Yeah,
It's so
his
slow.
in chain bash is 500. His neutral bash is 600. But you really can't tell.
Yeah,
It's like you dodge it, and you're like, oh, look at that punch. It's still going. It's still going.
the neutral.
So,
It's the same speed as Tiani's palm strike, and it is nowhere near as effective.
from neutral.
Yep.
Yeah, and the neutral bash is punishable by guard break if you don't chain it into a light attack as well. So it's also like a free light parry. It's such a bad move. I don't like it. I like I said, the one redeeming characteristic of the character is that he looks cool, sounds cool, feels visceral to play. I kind of was expecting the hammer to be bigger, to be honest with you.
Size
I
matters.
think a lot of
apparently.
people were.
I thought it was
So
going to be.
disappointed.
Listen, when I first saw it being released, I mean, with the initial like teaser, the whole like mini trailer, I was like, I think that I said the same thing. It's like, but once it got released, it's like, you know what? It's a little big. It's bigger than what I thought it was going to be. So which is not something I get to experience very often. So it's something that it's definitely it's definitely a more, I guess, aesthetically pleasing than I thought it was going to be. So I wanna actually kind of move forward a little bit, and we're running a little bit more further behind on time. So let me progress over to MystaKyle and Skull. So I want to hear from MystaKyle on. Oh, I want to say one thing real quickly on the chase down. He doesn't really have much for chase down. That being said, he is kind of like a warden with his dashing heavy in a sense. He does get a decent amount of distance with that, and if you were to dash heavy and then feint and dash heavy and feint, you can actually clear a slightly decent amount of distance. But there's other heroes have better ways of catching people than what he's got. So
Yeah,
I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Wardens is also 500 MS.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's definitely
So-
that is
Yeah,
definitely
Fuck.
so it's got
But
that
yeah,
going for him.
continue. Yep.
That being said, all right. So Mr. Kyle, please give me your thoughts after a week post release, and then of course a day after it was released to the full pop. Your thoughts
So
on
I
the
need-
Jormungandr?
I need to go back and I need to amend something I said the last time I was on this podcast. I said
Uh-oh.
that Jormungandr would be trash in ones and good in fours. I would now like to say that he is trash in ones and mediocre in fours. I think that what they ended up doing. Remember earlier when I told you that they did a rework for Nobushi only for the competitive players because only the competitive players were people at that level who were doing that? Okay, well, that was the thing they did for the competitive players. For the casual players, they gave you a dude with a hammer who screams really loud. That's what they did. They did something for everybody in this one. They nerfed Nobushi, and they gave you Jormungandr and George, or whatever you want to call him, and they made this cool kit where you throw people on the ground and slam them with a hammer and yell Ragnarok, and everybody falls, and there's all these theatrics, and there's lightning, and that's for people who just like to have fun and play this video game. You are not Lenin can tell me whether I'm right or wrong. I believe that you are not going to see Jormungandr in any competitive stacks, correct? Like that.
In MM, maybe if they're fucking around, which is
Right.
if
But
you're
I mean,
playing
in a real tournament, right?
Serious
in
business.
a tournament.
Unlikely. There's better choices. How about that?
Brave Lord, if you know him, he was like, he was so excited to play this character. He was like, "Oh, you look at this BP gank thing," which if you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah, I know
Yeah, it's
Um,
overrider damage.
the BP thing, which is really neat looking, but it's like impractical or whatever. He's like, "Oh, look at this! He gets a 50 damage, and then Raider gets a shitload off of Raider charge, Conk knockdown bash. He gets a shitload." So we were thinking, like, Raider, Conk, BP, those are all really good picks right now. But even then, people started like, "Oh fuck, wait a minute." So that was kind of
yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is he's a fun hero. If you want to have some fun and you want to just play, and you're at a normal matchmaking level, and you're not fighting Lenin and Rave Lord and people like that, and you want to just have some fun and bash people and have a good laugh, then I think he is a great hero. And I think his aesthetic looks awesome. I think he has cool emotes. I bet his event is going to be super awesome. I think that, he's got great factions starting out, so I think that's only going to get better. I think that is made for the average For Honor player, and I think they did a good job for it. He is not viable at high levels, and Lenin covered everything else. The only other note that I think I haven't heard anyone say yet is, can please someone tell me why his heavies do 25 damage and the top one does 30? He is a heavy. Okay, vanguards and hybrids across the board do at least that much damage, if not more. My opinion: make the side heavies 30, make the top heavies 35, and just realize that he is there to have fun with. He's not there to be a competitively optimal hero, and that's okay. Not every hero has to be a competitively optimal tournament viable force hero. They don't always have to be that way. Some can just be fun, and this guy's fun, and I think that's the role he fills. He's not overpowered. He's just fun.
Fun. Okay.
Fair enough.
I that's all fair enough. Pretty good overview on that. Skull, what are your thoughts on Jormungandr?
So I think personally, I call him Yog, which is not correct at all, but I just like to piss off everybody in chat, so I call him Yog. I think Yog at this point has been beat to death mechanically. Like, we all understand he's not top tier optimal at all. He's a fun character that you can play.
Fun.
My issue with Yog is at what point, it's a pipe dream for me. I would like a Viking that does not look like Shaman, the male version of Shaman. I would have liked a hero that looked like a regal captain of a boat with a hammer and had gold adornments. And if there's actually a perfect description of what I wanted the hammer hero to look like, and I know obviously the devs have their choice of which way to take a character aesthetic wise. But if you all want to just, I don't know, just the guy who he got art done, Hammer Up Official, literally the namesake of his channel, is Hammer. Got an art piece done by Eric Art. That is what I wanted for the Hammer hero. What I got wasn't it, but I still think he looks cool, 100%. And then that's probably all I'm going to say about Yog. Buff his heavies, and he's a fun character that you can somewhat play.
Yeah, I didn't even think to mention anything about the damage. I was more concerned about just the viability of certain trades and just the ability to just do the basic mechanics. So you guys bring up a lot of good points. Here's the thing, though, is that ultimately I think here's the thing. Can we all agree that it's a fun character to play?
Oh yeah, crushing someone's pelvis is fun as fuck.
Yeah, totally love hammer slamming people.
Okay. Good.
You have 3 of them on your team, and you crush one person, they're dead. That's satisfying.
And then their body flops around. You get to have a good laugh about it. That's what it is. It's just there to have fun. Just like Lenin said, you're not going to see us playing him unless we're in matchmaking, messing around. That's exactly what he's for. Hey, you guys want to play Conk and Hammer Boy, and you'll shield bash them, and I'll smash them every time you do it, and we'll just run around and make people mad and spam WoW in the chat. Like, if you want to go out and have some fun and do that, that's what he's built for. He's a blast, But if you're going to play in the 1.5 million Steel tournament this coming up weekend, which I totally recommend you should. There's probably better picks out there than Jormungandr.
All right, cool. Okay, so I want to do a couple. We're gonna do a couple things, and we're gonna be out of here very very shortly. I gotta ask Skull a question, and that is something that we ask everybody. Right? We ask everybody on their first time on the show, and I don't put this in the notes. If you've been watching the show, you guys know what to expect. And that question is, ThatSkullGuy, the cream of the crop. Skull, how has For Honor changed your life?
Of course, it's not in the notes. For Honor has changed my life quite a bit. Just in a whole, if you guys don't know me or my channel, I do a very family oriented channel. If you come into my channel, you're nice to me, I'm nice to you. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to want to see you as a regular, everything like that. I care about viewers. Everybody does. That's it. But I make it a special point in my chat. How it personally has changed me is I didn't really have friends growing up a whole lot. I had my brother and my sister, and that was it. So I'm pretty isolated IRL. But Twitch gave me a route to find people who play video games that I have fun with. I have more friends on Twitch, Discord than IRL, and I don't see anything wrong with that personally. But at the same time, streaming wise, For Honor with me is it made me cry on stream. If you guys were there or you guys haven't seen that, I during drops, and drops was inflated and everything like that. I had some of the highest numbers I've ever had on the channel. I cried on stream like a baby back bitch and let everybody know how much I appreciated them. There's a clip, fucking I don't know, but
And y'all tell me not to cry.
yeah, I'm trying not to tear up right now, but I love Twitch. I love what I do. I go on hikes every once in a while and I hang out with my girlfriend, but Twitch is what I do.
Yeah.
I love it to death, and I will, even if it's for one person or 500 people or whatever the fuck it is, I will be streaming until the day I die, until I'm fucking old. I hope they have, at this point, I hope they have retirement homes where they have just $5,000 PCs that I can go play and rent.
Yeah, it's the Mixer Studio.
Yeah.
Oh.
There it is.
Oh, get fucked.
Amazon.
No, but For Honor has changed my life. It was the first fighting game I've ever played, and it's the game that I'm probably never gonna stop playing until they shut the servers off.
Damn, that's some serious endorsement right there from ThatSkullGuy, and some real tears are behind those eyes right now, and some genuine moments. He's had a really great time. He's had a really great amount of support and growth, and some just the important thing to take from this is that he held this all on his own. I mean, he's a good creator. He's a good dude, and I'm honored, if you'll pardon the pun. I'm honored and proud to call him someone that I would call friend. And he's a good dude. You guys are all really good guys, and I would consider all of you friends. And I appreciate you joining us tonight. There's a couple things I want to reiterate, and that is that again, thank you very much to the development team for everything that you do. This goes from everyone who does direct programming on the game, to those that work in sound, to those that work in community development, on tournament organizing, on everybody on the team. Everybody has their place, everybody has their position, and the cogs would not turn without you guys, which is the grease. Thank you for what you do. We appreciate it. Thank you for bringing us this beautiful, beautiful game that brought all of us people together, because we're all passionate about it at the end of the day. Yes, it's not perfect. We realize that, and we're all working towards moving it towards a better, more perfect place. And we are moving in that direction. We're moving in the right direction. And I have the utmost respect for the development team in every sense of the way. Yes, again, we know that it's not perfect, and we will tell you when we think something is wrong. We've said a lot of things that we've had concerns with on this cast, but at the end of the day, we love all of you guys, and we love all of you in the community, all the players, all the content creators. You guys are fantastic. We would not be here if it weren't for you. This podcast would not be here if it were not for you guys. We truly mean when we say meaningful discussion and community-driven topics. That's what this podcast is all about. And I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in, as far as Ubisoft reached out to me, and that would not have happened if it weren't for you guys. That's all of you guys. And I had my moment of emotion before the cast, and you guys are incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that moment with me. Tonight's the first night that I've revealed that I got everything today. I'm wearing the MystaKyle shirt. You can get that in the For Honor store. That's not an ad. That's just me letting you know where to get it. And I don't use this term very often because I feel blessed. So thank you all so much for sharing that. And ThatSkullGuy, are you going to be streaming after this? MystaKyle, I know you got somewhere to go.
Jesus,
Oh, wait, no,
MystaKyle.
MystaKyle. No, MystaKyle, you have your... No, not tonight.
Nope.
I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. I thought you were doing your Tiandi cosplay. I forgot. It's after the tournament. What were you saying, ThatSkull?
The tournament.
That's a lot to put on some. I'm probably won't be streaming, but you guys can catch me.
All right, we'll be hosting somebody from the community. I'm going to roll the outro, and we will find somebody to host. I will type that out in chat. So, guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to LeninCat. Thank you to MystaKyle. Thank you to SkullGuy. We ran late. Thank you guys for sticking with me throughout that. We've had a really great discussion tonight. I will see you guys again very, very soon. And that's it. Have a great night, guys. Thank you.
Adios.
Deuces.
Ladies and gentlemen, please hang out with us for a moment. We are going to be hosting someone from our community. We're going to be hosting someone who's known as a Raider main. Looks like he's testing some things out tonight. His name is Pure Leaf, and he is an awesome individual. Show him, do me a favor, guys. Go show him some love like you showed us love. He's a good dude. Thank you very, 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 very much. Appreciate you. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much. Join us next week, 7 p.m. Pacific, Friday.